Welcome to the Friends of Fans and Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason. That right there is Dave McDonald, even though it says Miles Straw in his name. We are back. Took a little bit of a hiatus to get through the holidays, but we are back, ready to go, and we are going to talk a lot of baseball. We're going to also talk a little bit about the Earth Leagues. And kind of what's going on with that, because those are getting kind of set and ready, and we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff with that this year. Before we jump into all of that, if you notice, for those of you who might be watching live, we are not playing the intro music we've been playing recently. We got some complaints from some people, which are very valid, about some of the things that are mentioned in that video. And so we've taken that to heart. If we offended anybody, we apologize. It's definitely not what we aim to do. We like to have fun. We can be a little bit crass. We like to yell at each other, but we definitely don't want people to be upset. So, again, if that was my choice to bring those in, though Dave, I think, did enjoy it at times because it mentioned Cleveland. But we do apologize, and we look forward to moving forward and being better. And we'll have something for the front. I tried to get Zach Plesac, to record something. And as he did you last season, he disappointed me this season by not coming through. I got Cedric Mullins, my boy, to record something, which is fantastic and great. But unfortunately, just another bust from Plesac.
Well, I paid him not to do it a little bit more than I paid him 5 cents more than you were offering to pay him to do it. And so, given his uncertain financial stability in the future, he decided to take me up on my offer.
I wonder if he got in trouble for COVID protocols or something again. I mean, just could not show up at the right time. So it was unfortunate, but we will have a new, fresh intro here in the next week or two. But in the meantime,
I actually heard he broke his other hand trying to take off his pants this time.
It happens
forcefully.
Man.
Yeah,
that definitely happens at times. We are also wearing the exact same shirt, which is beautiful. We both have our Justin Mason main event team shirts on. That was not planned, but it's beautiful. I like your hat. What is the hat?
Thank you. Well, it's my typical pitching ninja hat, but I'm repping the Deadpool hitter tonight. Rob's going through some tough times with his mom. He gave me the okay to talk about it. I mean, I'm not gonna get into specifics, but just keep him in your thoughts and prayers. And I just wanted him to show to rep him tonight.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Rob this last week, just kind of randomly checking in on him, and he kind of filled me in what's going on. So our thoughts and prayers with Rob and his family in this time. He is a heck of a fantasy player, as he pretty much backed up everything he did when he won that overall in 2020 this last year, but he's an even better person. So we wish him well, and obviously his mom as well.
Yes.
So let's jump in to talk about the Earth Leagues, right? Because you and me and Matt Williams and at Baseball Pods and JT.
Do you not know Baseball Pods' name?
I do, but I don't know that he wants his last name out there.
Oh.
So okay. I have.
He's Chris. We can say Chris, right?
He's Chris, yes. So I don't know that he wants his last name out there.
Okay.
When I did a pod with him on TGFBI, he asked me not to put it in the notes. So
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but Chris, Chris runs Nerf. Matt Williams runs Turf. JT runs Werf. I run Barf, and you run Werf. No, you run Glarf. There's so many of them. Matt Will Sevenians does not want his name out there either. Yes, he is. He has just said it is so unique. So, for those of you who aren't listening live, looking at podcast form, you can follow us live. We're going to try to come somewhat regularly around this time, usually 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on Mondays. Sometimes that gets pushed to later. But if you follow Dave and I both on Twitter, follow Dave at RunDMCD, me at Justin Mason FWFB, you can catch the live stream of this on Monday nights. So one of the main things we're talking about is a big move for the leagues. these leagues have always been OBP and quality starts,
Right.
but we're going to make the move to NFBC. One,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they play on NFBC already. Almost all of my leagues at this point are on NFBC, and so that's a huge change because it goes from average to wins as opposed to OBP and quality starts. It also makes the overall part of it a little bit easier to calculate. JT won't have to do that by hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice that we don't have to make JT do all that free labor. It was very nice of him to do that for us last year, though. But yeah, I think a lot of people just with the NFBC has a much better fab bidding system than Fantrax does. And a lot of the people who are in this with us are NFBC players, and they don't want another format. Like for them, for a lot of them, that was their only Fantrax league, so they really didn't want to, have another league. So we had a lot of people who were like, well, I might have to leave if you guys don't go to NFBC. And so ultimately we talked about it and we decided to make the change. And we're still trying to find out. Derek Butcher has not gotten back to me yet on the trading aspect because NFBC does do a keeper league where you can trade.
Which is crazy. Like I know.
I don't even know what trading would look like on NFBC. I've never been in a league with trading on NFBC. So
I know that you, me, and Chris, Baseball Pods, we're talking about potentially doing a dynasty league, but I almost wonder if we should try out that.
Yeah, I mean,
like that seems like I don't know how that would work. Like I'm assuming you'd have to pay for all 5 years of it up front. But like I don't really understand like how would NFBC
I don't know
keep people in for 5 years? Like if your team's god awful, you're not going to pay for the last 2 or 3 years of it, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if we were doing the dynasty on NFBC. I think that would be somewhere.
No, I'm just saying instead of doing the dynasty, we should do that. Because I'm interested to try out their format.
Oh, you mean the keeper instead of Oh, okay. I kind of like the idea of like being able to keep my whole team though from year to year. I've done keeper leagues before. They're fun, but I do like the idea of a dynasty more. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can try that out with the Earth League this year. With the trading aspect, it'd be really interesting. But yeah, so we're trying to simplify things. We're trying to move everything over to NFBC. So we're going to do that. It's going to be standard 5x5 roto. And we're going to have more of a emphasis on the charity aspect this year. We kind of came up with the idea that every league would have a minimum buy-in of $20, and that $20 goes towards charity. And then you can have anything on top of the $20 you can have going towards, like league prizes. So like, for Glarf, we had a $150 buy-in. So $20 of that would go towards charity. And then the $130 would go towards the winners. And then also a small percentage of that would go towards the league belt, the league prize, which for us is a title belt, and then the overall prize for all of Earth, which is another title belt. So I know you guys have something different. You guys have like the barf pail or something. We
have the barf bucket.
Yeah, we decided that we wanted the double championship belt. So I put it out to people, and I was like kind of like, hey, what do you guys want to do for a trophy? But they're like, yeah, that'd be really cool to have the double title belt.
If someone can like RKO you, like, do they get to just take the belt, or do they actually have to win it?
Oh, I mean, if you can RKO me, I might just give it to you. But
that's not an easy feat.
No,
you're a big dude.
You're gonna have a tough time doing that to me. And turnabout is fair play. Keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely have to it'd have to be a sneak attack type thing.
Well, I mean, the RKO is out of nowhere.
Yeah, it'd have to be. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I think it's awesome that we're going to be doing this and raising money for charity.
Yeah.
There's talk of other leagues potentially popping up. Maybe a Canadian league, maybe a Texas league, maybe a DMP.
Both of those are looking really likely, as is the St. Louis area league. Those three are the three that I'm working with closely right now, that I think, like, I've set up commissioners and everything for all three of them. So hopefully they're on the way.
We have Mike H, who said IBN. I don't know if he was talking about the Keeper League or the Earth League, but he's from Canada.
I mean,
industry, so he'd be a good person.
Yeah.
Mike, if you are interested in potentially being in one of these area leagues that we talked about, or maybe you live in a major metropolitan area and would like to, find out if, there's been talk before about a Florida league popping up. You can feel free to DM me, or just tweet at Dave, and we could definitely hook you up with whoever we know that could potentially be setting these up. These are fantastic leagues.
They are.
I know that last year was your guys' first year, so you haven't had the opportunity yet to do it in person, but it's really become, Barf has really become my home league. I mean, we meet up every year in person. It's a strategic advantage for me because we meet in a bar, and I don't drink, and so everybody else gets shit-faced. And by the 30th round, I've definitely got a strategic advantage.
Well, if you're good enough, you don't have to be sober or even present to still win your league. So,
and we have apparently some good players because I've only won this league once in the 5 years we've done it. And I've been sober for all 5 of those years, and then some. And
you kind of highlighted another important part of these leagues. It's the in-person aspect. I know that with COVID going on, there's a lot of things, and there could be family emergencies. There could be a number of reasons why people can't show up, but we do want to encourage people who do want to get involved that you be open to drafting live when possible, because we really want to develop like a tight-knit community where, we're all making friends like in real life. Like we figured out how big of a deal that was this year at First Pitch Arizona, because all of us had never met before pretty much. Yeah. So that's what we're really trying to encourage, is that community feel. And then also like that area pride, like I want Glarf and Barf and Nerf and Turf to all be at each other's throats. Like, we want to be the best. And I really like the idea that we're all going to be repping a charity, and whoever's area league has the best average rank, their charity will be the one that gets all the proceeds from all of the players. So I really
is that how we're doing? I thought we were doing the overall winner.
No, the overall winner is going to get the title belt, but I wanted something that encouraged the entire league to work together. So even the guys in like 14th, 15th place, they can still pass the 14th and 15th place people from other leagues. And that encourages people to stay active, because that's another thing. We want to make sure we keep people active. And, if we can't, we're going to have to replace people. But this isn't going to be a league that people are just going to stop playing halfway through the year.
Well, I like that idea. My league is a pretty active league, so I'm not worried about people. And I've made some great friendships. I mean, through Barf, I've become really close with like Howard Bender, the late great Laura Michaels. I met them because of Barf. Sammy Reed and Doug Thorburn, also guys in the league that have become good friends of mine. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So, like I said, if you are interested in maybe joining one of these area leagues, or potentially even starting your own, feel free to DM me or
probably DM me
or Dave, and we can definitely get you hooked up with the right people or on the right track. Let's talk about our main topic for tonight, and that is, in the spirit of Christmas that just passed.
Oh,
you get gifts, right? And sometimes you get coal.
Oh boy,
you get coal. I get gifts because I'm good and you're bad, right?
wait.
You set yourself up for that shit.
Who decided this? This is not in the show notes, Justin.
Yeah, so I told Dave, hey, take a look at the ADP. We're using Draft Champions ADP from 12-1 to today. And we're going to start with round 5 and go through 15, picking one player we would buy at their ADP and one player that's Cole-like, that's Dave-like, and that we would sell. And some people are going to go, well, why aren't you doing rounds 1 through 5? And I think that's because unless you actually fall asleep and don't show up to your draft on time like Dave might do, like, you shouldn't make too many huge mistakes in rounds 1 through 5, right? That should be a pretty decent, easy way to set up a base. At least rounds 1 and 2. Like, am I really going to be like, oh, I don't want to take, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or whatever? Like, who cares, right? So I think it's
Cody
a little
Bellinger last year, man. I'm telling you.
but yeah, again, unless you fall asleep and don't
I'm sure a
don't
lot
show
of
up to your
people
drive.
took him. I think a lot of people took him legitimately, though. I don't know why, but
I did early on in draft season, but by the end, I had thought better of it. But we're gonna focus on rounds 5 through 15, each taking a player or two players, one we like, one we dislike at the price, and kind of give people some things to start thinking about in terms of maybe who players they want to target, but also how they want to construct their teams. Because I think often what we're going to talk about is that we don't necessarily dislike the player, but we dislike how the player might fit into our potential roster, and that's kind of the higher level game theory that we're talking about here. So let's start with your round 6 or round 5 guy who you are buying, someone you would like to put on your roster at round 5.
Yeah, and Justin's starting with me because he hasn't picked his players yet. He only had like all day to do this. So anyways, I'm gonna go with Will Smith, the catcher. We've kind of been over this on previous episodes, but I'm looking for catchers outside of the first, 3-4 rounds who are going to give me potentially everyday playing time with some pretty significant upside. And I think that's exactly what he is, because they've shown the propensity to play him at DH in the short season when he wasn't catching. Now my concern is that they do have other players there on their bench, but I also know that Max Muncy is likely missing significant time this year. I think they're going to find a way to get Smith's bat in there because this guy has pretty elite skills. I mean, he walks, close to 12% of the time and only strikes out 20% of the time. He's got that 25 plus home run power, hits for solid average, gives you pretty good run and RBI numbers. And again, like even this is not even playing every day. He had 25 homers, 71 runs, 76 RBI last year for a catcher. Compare that to pretty much anybody outside of Salvador Perez, and it was money. Now imagine adding another 100 or so plate appearances at least. And I mean, I think you're talking about a guy who could easily be every bit as good as Salvador Perez next year, but at a much lower price. So that's where I'm going to go for my round 5 guy.
Yeah, and I could not agree more on Will Smith. That is not my guy, though. I have drafted Will Smith in the 5th round already this season. I have no problem doing that for all the reasons that you stated. And I think I've mentioned this already on a previous podcast, whether it be here or Sleeper the Bus, can't remember which one. But that is something I'm targeting this year. I expect the DH to be a thing in the National League. I think we all do. And so anytime I can get a catcher, someone who's catcher eligible with full-time plate appearances, I'm going to be targeting them. And we'll talk about that probably a little bit more when we get to Dalton Varsho a little bit later. Because he's a guy in the past that I've kind of faded that I'm not fading this year. Yeah. My guy is right there, kind of at 60. So like right at the top. And that's Nick Castellanos.
That's the other guy who I was going to pick. I was between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has consistently put up like elite numbers. And I don't know if it's because he is leaving Cincinnati and he's a free agent that his numbers
that's the only concern,
have dipped. But this reminds me so much of like, remember when Chris Davis, the good one, not the bad one, left Milwaukee for Oakland, and everybody's like, oh, his power numbers.
Yeah.
They're going to suffer leaving Milwaukee, going to Oakland. No, real men hit bombs, dude. Like, and I'm not worried about Nick Castellanos in any park. Like, he put up good numbers in Detroit.
Not great power numbers though, right? I mean,
he was still developing though. Like, it's not like go look at his like X home runs. Like, you look at his X home runs, and I'm sure what they will tell you is he would have hit plenty of home runs in other parks. Maybe he loses a few. I'm not super worried about it.
I mean, I'm hoping he doesn't go to like San Fran or KC or Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh's not going to trade for him.
And Kansas City's not going to pay for him either. So like,
right.
And San Francisco has shown they don't want to.
St. Louis, Oakland. I mean, all the options that he's likely to go to are all going to be probably fine for homers, and not as good as the Reds. He's going to lose some homers, but his average, I think, and counting stats will more than make up for that, I think.
Yeah, and I think he's such a good value where he's going right now. I love Nick Castellanos. Who's your fade? Who's the Dave McDonald of this round that you are fading?
Oh boy, you're just cruising for a bruising, buddy. Remember, I can pick you up like you're a small child.
I know. It's funny.
So I'm gonna go with Pete Alonso, and it's nothing against, like, he's he's healthy, he's got big power. It's just he doesn't give me anything at this point in the draft that I can't get later. Even last year with 37 homers, he only had 81 RBI. 260 average is about what you can expect.
He had 94 RBI.
Sorry, 81 runs.
81 runs.
81 runs? Did I say RBI?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. 81 runs, not RBI. But yeah, 94 RBI. It's just I can get guys later that can give me a slightly lesser version maybe of this, but I would much rather take a guy like Castellanos and get a few less homers and better counting stats and better average. That's just not what I'm looking for at this point in the draft. So and especially not first base either. There's so much depth at first base.
You actually don't mind Alonso, and actually recently just took him in a draft. He did slip out of that spot, so I got a decent discount on him. I mean, I think the hard part is, unless you're in the position which I was in this draft, that I had already addressed starting pitching, I'd already addressed relief pitching, I'd already addressed speed. Like he just doesn't do much, right? Like outside of just hit bombs. And
was this the 12 that you were in?
Yeah, it's the 12 I was in.
Okay. I think it's easier to fit him in a 12. It's just still not going to be what I go for, but I would understand it more there because of the fact that there's not that same crunch in a 12 that there is.
And it was in the back end of the 8th round, so it was a discount. Even in a 12. So I got a lot, but like I kind of tend to agree with you. It's very rare that I'm going to go that direction because I'm typically looking for something else. But at that point, he actually fit my team really nicely. So he's not a fade for me, but he's also not a target for me. You know who is a fade for me in this area? It's Byron Buxton.
Oh.
Like, why people are going to continue to fall for this? Like, I love the guy. I do think at some point there will be a season in which he stays healthy and delivers like league winning season. But when I'm going to be able to predict that, like if you can predict it, you fall into that, fine. But the risk to draft capital ratio is not worth it. I'm talking about a guy going, I think 67th. Like that's insane. Like why do people continue to fall for this? I just don't understand it.
Because he had that one season where he only missed 22 games.
I get it, but like, I'm sorry.
I'm being sarcastic. It's just the ultimate. It's the people constantly looking through rose-colored glasses, and it's just but if he stays healthy, but he's so good, he's so athletic. I get it, he is, and like,
we get it. I do dream on the.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I mean, in the right league, if you have if you're in Yahoo and you've got an IL slot and you've got a really high replacement value level, I could see taking.
You have large benches, like you can replace from that bench.
In NFBC, especially 15s with a limited bench, you simply can't afford to take guys like him.
Or even like ESPN leagues where you've got a 3-person bench.
Oh yeah, no, not even close.
And maybe a 5-person IL, like that crushes you. Like, I understand people want to take the shot in like shallower formats where there's replacement value, but that just means your overall team has to be that much better when it's that shallower of a team, right? Like, and so to lose a guy for 70 games or 50 games here and there, like, yeah, there's replacement value, but we're still living in a world of COVID where you could lose 6 guys overnight. Like, you just can't afford to take zeros or have to drop a guy like that into the waiver wire to someone else. I'd much rather someone else deal with that headache than me.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next round, round 6. Who you taking?
Yeah, it's so difficult for me to get away from this guy. Like, I just can't do it because I believe in the skills so much, and that's Trevor Rogers. Like, everything about him just screams ace to me. I think the only thing missing really from him being like a top couple round pick is just track record, one, and two, better team. But the Marlins are looking to spend this year, it looks like. I don't think they're going to be as bad of a team as they, definitely not as bad as they were last year. And I think they're going to be better than people think. And I think this can be a guy with a 3 ERA, maybe even sub 3 ERA if things swing right. And he's got 2 elite pitches with his fastball and changeup. He's got elite velocity. He throws 95, 96 miles an hour, and he can hit 97. And he's got a developing slider where I think if that slider improves a little bit, even, I think he can just absolutely take off and go to another level. But I mean, he doesn't give up hard hits at all. He doesn't really walk that many guys. It's just everything's there that I want to see it. And I think his price is super depressed right now. And I really am hoping I can get him anywhere close to this by the time of the mains, but I have a feeling he's going to be going another round or so higher by then.
I don't know that he will, because he's in a group of starting pitchers I really like.
Really?
Yeah, and so and starting pitching is a lot deeper, I think, in years past. And if we're seeing anything right now, what's rising is relief pitching. Like, everybody is insane right now for relief pitching, and
because we don't have any clarity right now. Like, you have to, because it's like it's much
it's
much better to take a guy that is getting saves in round 3, 4, 5 than a guy that you're just guessing will in 6, 7, 8.
Like, I do the ADP movement article on Fangraphs. And I dropped the relief pitcher one today. And when you're seeing guys like Rowan Wick jump like 100+ spots in ADP, you're like, this is why people play for a. But that's obviously a different discussion. Maybe we'll talk closers at some point here. But it's insane. But starting pitching, Rogers definitely a guy on my list. And had you not taken him, I probably would have talked about him, because I have him as a top 25 starter this year. He's definitely a target for me. But like I said, this is actually a group of starting pitchers, or a number of starting pitchers I really like. I'll talk about Joe Musgrove. Musgrove was like everybody's darling last year. Like, he goes out and actually has a pretty damn good season in San Diego, and now people are fading him. I know it was a little bit rough down the stretch, but
after the sticky stuff ban.
But it was rough for a lot of guys, and then they put it together. So I'm not super worried about Joe Musgrove. I have him as top 20 starter. Being able to get him this late, it feels really nice. Like, also, other guys there's a lot of guys in this round I really like.
Yeah, I mean, there's also Manoah and Cease, who I really like, and
Montas I like.
I'm not a big Montas guy, but he is up there. I will say that Musgrove goes about 10 picks ahead of Trevor Rogers, though. So I don't know if you can consider that the same time necessarily. Like, it is.
Oh, it's same round. I mean, but like, this is one of the reasons why I could honestly see myself not taking a starting pitcher until rounds 5, 6.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah,
you could double tap on a Musgrove Rogers and feel pretty good coming out of the early part of your draft. For those of you that, obviously some people are really into taking early aces, but some people are more like me. They like early hitting, or they like to kind of do a more balanced approach. You can easily find yourself going, hey, I'm not going to touch an early starter. I'm just going to load up on offense, and then grabbing these guys a little bit later. I think
ultimately it comes down to what you're good at identifying. I hear Nick Pollock talks about the fact, like, he trusts his ability to find pitching late, but not hitting. So you just have to kind of know yourself and know your strengths and weaknesses in your player analysis skills, and kind of attack the things that you're less sure of early, and then, get the things later that you're more sure that you can hit on later.
Absolutely. Knowing your own strengths and weaknesses are huge. Some hitters in this area that I like that I just want to kind of briefly mention. I'm a big Brandon Lau supporter. And again, a guy who I think Matty Wood mentioned this on his pod with Vlad.
I don't know if Matty Wood's ever done a pod and not mentioned Brandon Lau, so that tracks.
But like, he did exactly what you wanted him to do last year, and now he's going later than he was. Like, I don't get it either. I agree with Matty. Jorge Polanco, a guy Matty Wood disparaged, is a guy I like as well. I don't understand disparaging a guy that his only down season in the last 2 years was the shortened season. Other than that, he's been just phenomenal. I like both those guys. Who's the guy you hate? Who's the guy you do not want at this price?
I've talked about a couple of different guys, but I'm going to go with a different one this time. I'm going to say Corey Seeger. Great talent, great hitter, but he's going to, and I know that they're improved, but it's still going to be a shitty lineup. The guys sitting in front of him are not good OBP guys. The Rangers Park is poor for home runs, and for those of you who don't know, the Dodgers home run park factor is the third best in baseball at 124. I think the Rangers only have 1 year to go on, and their home run park factor was somewhere in the 90s. But I mean, not terrible, but significantly worse than where he's coming from. So, it was 97 last year, and even that feels high. But yeah, and on top of that, Corey Seager can just never stay healthy. And I feel like the power is there to some degree. Like I think he can hit 25. I think maybe in his prime peak year, he can hit like 30, but I'm not betting on him keeping it all intact, staying healthy, going to a much worse lineup, much worse park. I'm just not into it.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. I almost got him because I think he went like out of the top 100 picks in this 12 teamer, and I was really starting to think about it. I ended up going a different direction instead, but yeah, I'm not necessarily as worried about his power production in that part because I think he's another guy when he's hitting the ball, like it's going to leave just about every park. The problem is he just doesn't stay on the fucking field. Like this is a guy who had. I mean, if you remember back to when he was a prospect, he was a guy that prospect guys had concerns about being able to stick at shortstop with his size.
We see that a lot. We saw it with like Troy Tulowitzki was the same kind of thing. It's like the wrong body type for that position.
And the fact that they have Josh Jung and have now Marcus Semien locked into a long-term deal means they can't move him to third or second. And I just worry about his ability to stay on the field long-term.
Absolutely.
He had the elbow issues, had hip issues, had back issues. For that reason, and he doesn't run at all. Like he does not run. Like that does not and so he's obviously a one-note player, and
he does hit for average, so he gives you power.
Yeah, but average is fluky year to year. Like there's some guys who are very consistent. Seager's not necessarily that guy. Like he can be fluky year to year. So, for those reasons, I agree. I agree with you. I'm out.
Okay.
Let's see. There's not a ton of guys that I super dislike in this area. There are three names that really stick out to me. I'll say them all. I'll say all three. Just to talk about, but I'll kind of focus on one. Giovanni Gallegos.
Yeah.
I understand the prices of closers are going up, but if I'm going to pay a top 100 price on a closer, I want to be damn sure he's the guy. And what St. Louis has told us over the last few years is they don't really have a guy. And I know there's talk about, Jordan Hicks is going to be a starter and Alex Reyes is going to be a starter. Those guys are going to be starters until they're not. Like, until they look at their team and they go, no, you don't succeed as a starter or we need help in the bullpen, which right now is the way there's teams constructed. Both of those could be true. And as much as I think Gallegos probably deserves to be the closer, I don't feel confident that he is. And so I'm not going to pay a top 100 price. If I was paying like, around 130, 140, 160, yeah, sure. But top 90 right now, like that, I'm just not going to do that.
I mean, he's been the best pitcher in that pen for years, and they refuse to give him the job. And the fact of the matter is, as dumb as it is, he doesn't have the closer label. Like the manager isn't. If they sign someone else, or Hicks starts doing well in the pen, like they can go away from him.
It's not necessarily to the team's advantage to put their best reliever as the closer.
Right.
We know this, right? Like, I mean, sometimes you want your best reliever to come in at the most opportune times, and that's not always the ninth inning. So, I just, my other co-host over on Sleeper the Paul Sport, he's huge on Gallegos this year. I just can't buy it. I just don't.
Yeah, he took him at first pitch Arizona too, in like the third round, and we were all just like,
we just recorded episode 1000. We still disagree on it. Like, Nick Pollock threw in a little bit of a tease about it. Like, hey, I can't remember who in Arizona like was the most popular in terms of that. And I was like, yeah, it was me. So the other two guys, Kendall Marte, for the same reasons that we've talked about with Corey Seeger, dude has had some real issues staying on the field the last couple of years. I love the talent, and I do think if there's like a potential first rounder in this group, it could actually be Kendall Marte, because in spite of the fact that he's never really run, we know he's got a ton of speed, and like all it would take is for him to decide to run and the team to let him run, and for him to stay healthy, that he could potentially have like a massive 20-30 season or something like that, or a 30-30 season. Like, I think that's in the cards for him as the top end of talent level. But we've also seen him really, really struggle with injuries the last few years. And for that reason, like, I know people are going to continue to go back to well on him because they dream on the tools. I want, when I'm drafting my first 8, 9 rounds, 10 rounds, I want to make sure that it's not with injury risk guys, and Marte is one of those guys. The other guy is Luis Castillo, who he's just not a good whip asset. Like,
that's what I've been saying for years. Yep.
And I do kind of expect him to get traded out of Cincinnati, so things may get better for him. But that defense behind him is truly atrocious right now.
Yeah.
And I think it really hampered him in the early part of the season. Also, pitch location hampered him as well. But the defense behind him hampered him quite a bit. And if he ends up staying in Cincinnati, like, that's a really, really bad spot for him. And we were just talking about Nick Castellanos and where he might sign. And hey, it looks like that there really aren't many contending teams with bad parks. That means if a contending team trades for Luis Castillo, it's probably not a good pitcher's park. So I'm not buying in on Luis Castillo. There's some people I see still putting him in as a top 20 pitcher. He is not a top 30 pitcher for me.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's move on to the next round. Who you got? Round 7.
Well, so who is a top 30 pitcher for me is Shane Mcclanahan. I love this guy's stuff. He's got an elite slider and curve. He throws, 96, 97 miles an hour. Just looks every bit the part of an ace. I would like to see his whip get a little bit better, but I mean, the guy, strikes out 10.3 K per 9, only walks 2.7 walks per 9. I mean, all the pieces are there. He's on the Rays, so he probably won't be, a guy who goes super deep into games for you. He's more of a 5 to 6 inning guy. Like, I think he only went over 6 innings one time all season. But he's the guy that you roster to get good ratios, and you can still get a lot of wins out of him because the Rays have a solid offense, and they have really good defense and a phenomenal bullpen. So it's a really good recipe to get wins if you can get through like 6 innings. So I really like Mcclanahan in this area.
Well, I'm not as big on Mcclanahan as you. I don't dislike him, though. I think I have him around. I think I'm around pitcher 36 or something like that. But yeah, I don't mind that at all. Raise pitchers, as long as we feel comfortable about his innings totals, which I think we do with Mcclanahan. I think more than
you're talking about your 7th rounder. It's not one of your, now if you start a little later, like you were talking about before, where you don't start with an ace or whatever, an anchor. I do feel like you should have one of those guys, at least that you feel like you can get 200 innings out of, and I don't think he's that guy. So I think it has to be in the right roster construction to work.
Yeah, he's hopefully your SP3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with him as my 2, honestly, as long as my 3 gets me some more innings.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. I don't dislike that at all. My guy, there's a few guys in this area I really like, but I mentioned him early, Dalton Varsho. If you have been following my work, whether written or on podcasts, you have heard me say some pretty disparaging things about Dalton Varsho in the past.
Yeah, he actually wrote into the show and talked some shit about you talking shit on him. Yeah. So, I think he might beat you up.
So, however, that being said, as we were talking about with Will Smith before, a guy who's catcher eligible that's going to likely play full time. He's likely going to be a full time outfielder in Arizona. He has power. He's got speed. The question is how much contact he'll make. I think that will improve this season, but there's no reason for a team like Arizona not to give him full run. I think he is a really, really nice pick here. I'm not usually an early catcher guy. I'm usually kind of a wait till the end of the draft to fill my catcher role, but I think Dalton Varsho is one of those guys that could return second or third round value just because of the volume at the catcher position, especially in two catcher formats. Really like Varsho.
Yeah, I'm with you on Varsho, and the big thing is the Diamondbacks showed that they're willing to play him every day down the stretch, whether it be a catcher or outfield. So even without a DH, Varsho should still be playing probably 6 out of 7 games at least. So
yeah,
huge advantage, not to mention the steals, and he has the power too. So even if all of that comes with like a 230 average, I still don't see the Diamondbacks sitting him because they frankly don't have anyone better.
Yeah. You and I are about to agree on our fade in round 7.
Yeah.
So I'll let you lead it off here.
And then you can jump in.
Who do we dislike here?
Yeah, we dislike Justin Verlander, and I know people are like, yeah, Dave, huge shocker, doesn't like Verlander, but the last time I faded him in 2020 and told you guys to fade him too, you guys gave me shit, and what happened? He missed the entire season. So now he's missed the last 2 seasons. He's 39 years old, trying to come back. I know that his velocity, people get all, he's at 93, 94 miles an hour. He's touching. That's great. But he has to sustain that for a period of time. The other thing that people forgot about was, if you read Jeff Zimmerman's Minding the News piece, Verlander was talking about something ridiculous, like he wants to play another 10 years a couple years ago. I'm like, okay, sure. But he's talking about how he was going to have to change his mechanics so that he wasn't putting as much strain on his body, because he knows that he can't hold up throwing as hard and as violently as he's been throwing for the last, decade or so. So what kind of Verlander are we getting this year? On top of the fact that he hasn't pitched in 2 years, he's going to be super rusty. Guys coming off of TJ need time to get their control, command back, that sharpness. I mean, you saw what happened with Chris Sale when he came back late last year. He was not sharp. And I expect
he was pretty good.
He was okay, but he was definitely not Chris Sale.
He was pretty close. That being said, I agree with you on Verlander. But I think Chris Sale is the reason why people are paying the price on Verlander this year, is because they're like, oh, look, Chris Sale just came back and he was fine. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, that guys struggle with their command and their control. Like you said, he's 39 years old. We haven't seen him pitch. I can't take a guy this high coming off of this kind of surgery. Like I understand it's been a lot of time. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially when you've got guys like Syndergaard and Severino who both pitched last year. Like they at least pitched. Severino looked good. We didn't see much of Thor, but
as a reliever, he looked good.
Yeah, he looked good on the mound. Like I mean, it's at least something. We've at least seen him pitch in a game scenario.
Right.
I'm just not going to pay the price, and he's going, around pick like 180. That's a huge difference between taking a guy in the 7th round. Like I just can't do it for Verlander. All right.
And so looking at Sale, he had a 1.34 whip, and his change was garbage. So that's the thing. Like I get that his, he had a 3.16 ERA, but I think that is just a small sample thing. Like I think if you were to take Chris Sale this year, it would be a little bit better. But I mean, taking him last year was stupid, and taking Verlander this year is stupid.
I agree. I mean, people were taking Syndergaard last year. Like it was, I mean, it may have worked out a little bit for Sale, but you had to roster him through a hell of a lot.
Who's going to hold him that long? Like that's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. The only place I had him was in a DC, so
that's a little different. Yeah, because you don't have.
I had other options until he got healthy. So I did end up winning that DC too, which worked out nicely. But other guys that I'm kind of fading in this area. I'd be interested to see where you're at on your buddy Cody Ballinger. Oh, I guess Bellinger is in the next round. So we'll talk about Bellinger.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next round. And who do you have in round 8 as a guy you are buying in on?
For the first time ever, it's Blake Snell. He's a guy who I've perpetually been out on because people constantly overrated him. Now I feel like he's being underrated. He's going in the 8th round. We saw a dominant 8-game stretch at the end of the season before he hurt his groin and had to finish the season in mid-September. But before that, I mean, he was throwing down some monster outings, like 13 Ks to 3 walks, 10 Ks to 0 walks, 10 Ks to 2 walks, 11 Ks to 2 walks, 9 Ks to 2 walks. I mean, from August on, he looked like his old vintage, best self of Blake Snell. I had wanted nothing to do with him going into last year because he clearly wasn't right. And I knew that they were going to limit him. But now I feel like he's probably close to being fully healthy going into 2022. And I mean, we know what the upside is. We know that he has those elite, like, ace skills, and the 8th round is exactly where I want to take that type of risk. So that's why I say I don't want to take these risks in the first couple of rounds. I absolutely want to take them later, because if I can get an ace, an SP1 as my SP4, that's exactly what I'm looking for, or SP3 even.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't think he's going to be in that range for very long.
Probably not.
A lot of people are going to start hyping or jumping on the Blake Snell bandwagon. I agree with you. He's a guy that I continuously, every time I go and update my ranks, he finds himself a spot, 2 spots, 3 spots higher. And unfortunately, I think everybody is going to be. I think he's going to find himself as a top 25 starter here pretty soon, and which would make it a little bit more difficult. I still think it's not a bad purchase though. Mine is Ryan Mountcastle, and people have already given me shit on this one, so I'll be interested to see where you fall. Look, I know the underlying metrics aren't great necessarily on Mountcastle. They never have been, and all he's done is hit. He's hit his entire career from the low minors all the way into the majors. All he does is hit. He's got first base and outfield eligibility, which I love because I don't love the depth in outfield this year, especially if you're playing in 15-team leagues. Obviously, 10 and 12s are a little bit shallower, a little bit more easy to deal with those. Plays in one of the best parks in baseball to hit in. He's going to hit in the middle of that lineup, which I think is going to get better and better as the season goes on. I really like Ryan Mountcastle. Do you agree? Disagree? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I was surprised to hear his name, but I mean, yeah, this is a guy who's got really good power. Close to a 115 max EV, 12% barrel rate. Like, I think he can hit 40 bombs in that park, honestly, pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit 33 in under 600 plate appearances. And he's a pretty good average guy too. Like, I mean, I know he had 255 last year with a 297 BABIP. I think he can hit closer to 270, 280, maybe even. I like the whole package there. So yeah, I'm a fan of that. And he is first base outfield eligible, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's
nice. A nice little bonus there too.
Yeah, love those guys who can move from midfield to outfield. They've always got added value.
Right.
Who is the guy that you're fading in this round?
I'm going to go with Pablo Lopez, which is unfortunate because I really liked him last year. I know.
Hurts my heart.
I know.
I agree, though.
I know. That shoulder injury was mid-July. He returned in early October as a reliever. I don't think he's fully healthy, and I don't see him being able to deliver what you'd want out of an 8th round pick right there. And there's just too many factors against him.
It's now his 3rd shoulder injury.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He's got a history with that. So yeah, it's sad because we all love Pablo. He's got that elite change and everything, but yeah, I'm just not going to be taking that. That's not the type of risk I want to take there.
I know you don't like to do early drafts, but this is one of the reasons. Pablo Lopez is a prime example of the reason I like to do early drafts, because when I do my early ranks, I ended up having Pablo Lopez as like a top 30 starter, maybe even top 25 starter. I can't remember exactly where I had him in my first run. But as I do drafts, I find myself passing on him for other guys. And it's because of that shoulder. I love the talent. But one of the things I want from guy that I'm taking that early in a draft as a starter is innings, and I just can't guarantee myself as many innings as I wish I could with Pablo Lopez, and so he's now outside of my top 30. Guys like Blake Snell have jumped over him.
Yeah,
and it's a bummer because I do like Lopez, but I just can't pay the price where he's going right now. There's a number of fades for me in this spot, but I'm going to talk about another injury-prone guy that was a huge boon for people last year, but I think it's setting up for a huge bust this year. That's Mitch Haniger. I love Mitch Haniger from a straight skills perspective. This was a video game, and we could turn off injuries. I'd be drafting Mitch Haniger left and right, but we can't do that. This dude has never been able to stay healthy for a long period of time, even going back to his minor league days. Now going as a top 120 pick? Absolutely not. There is no way I'm taking Mitch Haniger any drafts this year.
So what exactly where are you talking about? Because like last year he was extremely healthy. In 2018 he was also extremely healthy. I know he got hurt in 2019 and missed the short season, but
his minor league track record is all the reason he took so long and ended up getting traded out of Arizona is because of injuries. He has a very, very long injury history. Like it is pretty brutal, and I'm not going to take a guy. He's got a Byron Buxton-ish track record. If you look at all, I mean, from back in the minor league,
fighting words.
They are, but it's true.
I do remember Austin Meadows was a guy who had injury issues like going all the way back to like high school. I did not realize that on Haniger, but I have not done my full injury risk assessment yet, but it kind of depends on what the injuries are for me. Like if it's things that can heal and not be a lingering thing, I'm not as concerned. But like, do you remember what the injury history entails?
Some back stuff, hamstring stuff, things like that.
Okay.
I mean, but you can kind of go and look through like his, games and stuff, throughout the minor leagues, and you can see like, he hasn't played a ton of full seasons. And I'm not going to pay for a guy. We're paying for the ceiling this year now, which is great. I mean, he was, like I said, he was great last year, and I hope he is good because I do like him as a player. He's a fun player to watch. I'm not going to pay for that. And
interesting. It's interesting to me that like Mountcastle goes higher than him, and yet he had the far superior season last year.
Who, Haniger?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's some concerns about the repeatability.
I mean, it could be the first base eligibility for Mountcastle as well, but
yeah,
that is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And he's actually not super overpriced either, considering the season he just put up. I mean, he went 39 home runs and 100.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. But
yeah,
I'm not buying a repeat of that for sure. Okay. Anybody else? Or let's move on and or actually, I want to hear your thoughts. You drafted Cody Ballinger in the second round last year on accident. Somehow you were able to rebound on that team and still cash.
That's right.
Well, thank God for you, because that's an expensive league to have that mistake happen.
Yep.
Where are you at on Cody Ballinger this year? Because he was so atrocious last year.
Yeah.
That as a former MVP, the Dodgers started to platoon him, and then he goes out and has this unbelievable run in the postseason where he hits like 380 something.
Yeah.
And some early drafts had him going really high. Now we're starting to see him kind of dip back down into this round, which I don't think is unfair, but I'm still unwilling to buy. And for those of you who are Dodger fans who are going to yell at me for being a Giants fan, like it's not like homerism. I honestly don't know what Cody Ballinger is at this point.
That's exactly it, man. It's the same thing as Christian Yelich, and
Yeah,
if I don't know who a guy is, I don't draft him. It's as simple as that
not
because
this early.
I look for reasons not to draft people. I don't look for reasons to draft
Yeah.
people. So I'm fine crossing them off my list and taking someone else. Now, having said that, if we get to spring training, if I'm reading about, adjustments that he's made to his swing and his shoulder is sound and he's crushing it in spring training, like he's a guy who I'm going to have to see in spring hitting well. Cause normally I fade spring training statistics, but there are certain things I look for, especially for guys in situations like him. We saw when everybody was having questions about Yelich coming off of his first bad season, and then he struck out constantly in spring training, and everyone was trying to play it off like, oh, he's still Yelich, he'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm not buying this because he should be able to crush spring training pitching. And if he is striking out this much, that does not bode well for the regular season. So it's gonna be out on him until further notice. I understand the playoff, the huge playoffs, but we saw Rosarena go off in the playoffs too, and that didn't carry over. So like I don't think that that's enough of a reason for me to be in on him.
I don't like this Rosarena slander. Rosarena was just fine last year, but
He was, but he wasn't otherworldly, right?
yeah,
like
he was another
like
one.
people,
But
took
I still
him
think that's I still
hoping
think
for
that is I think that is still in the potential outcomes for Rosarena.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So, and I just brought up Bellinger stats. He did 353 in the postseason after hitting 165 in the regular season.
I'm very familiar with his regular season
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah, I know you are. I mean, shit. I took him in the second round of the Battle of the Podcast League. It's the reason I have to give you
Pay
50
for my
bucks.
entry league.
Yeah. So but here's the thing. So he hit 353. What do you think his BABIP was in the postseason?
Well, the fact that you're asking me this, see, I didn't watch a single minute of the
And
postseason
see,
outside of when I was watching the games with you guys at first pitch.
I watched every game of the
Right.
postseason, and I can't remember. Like, I remember him having some like big timely hits, but like I don't remember him being like, oh, like watching him be like, oh, that's the old Cody Ballinger. I remember him blooping some singles just at the right opportune times.
Okay.
And finding some holes and stuff like that.
So I was assuming that you were going to say his BABIP was like something normal, like close to his average, like 350, 360. But was it really bad or good?
It was 500.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't even care at that point.
Yeah.
So he got a lot of dinky hits and shit. I don't know.
He hit 353. He had one home run.
Yeah, then that sounds like the same Cody Bellinger to me. I mean, he just
sounds like someone who got really lucky on balls in play.
Yeah. Okay.
Like he had a sub 40% fly ball percentage. Like he was just dinking and dunking and just finding holes. Yeah, I'm not in on Cody Ballinger. So, all right, let's move on to our ninth round. What is your ninth round pick?
Yeah, and so this goes back to the whole NL DH thing because once again, now this is also dependent on what the Cubs do with him. But Wilson Contreras, he with a DH, the Cubs played him literally every single day in 2020. He was either their catcher or their DH. So it'll be the exact same thing this year, unless they trade him. If they trade him, then I don't know how his new team would play him. But I mean, this is a guy with 25 homer power, he can hit 240 to 260, maybe something like that. I mean, the power is still really good. 48.5% hard hit rate, 115 max EV, 11% barrel rate. And the contact rate is good enough. It's just I'm looking for catchers who are going to play every day and get me everyday stats that I don't have to take in the first couple of rounds. And he fits that perfectly.
Absolutely. And like you said, the caveat is, does he get traded to a team that may not use him as a DH? Like there was some talk about the Yankees, if they weren't going to tender Gary Sanchez a contract or end up trading Gary Sanchez. But he could end up on a team that, though it's really hard to figure out what the hell the Cubs are doing. Like, I really don't understand exactly.
The Stroman signing just threw us all off. We're all like, what the hell?
I don't know why you sign a guy like Marcus Stroman, especially to a short-term contract. Like, I think it's 3-year contract. Like, if you're I didn't think they were going to be competing these next 3 years. So like why they do that? They may end up keeping Wilson Contreras. Who knows?
Right.
So if they do, I think that's a really good call. The guy that this was kind of a hard round for me to find a guy that I really like. There were two guys that really stuck out to me, but I'm going to talk about Jake Cronenworth. He is a guy that does not have a carrying tool in fantasy, but just kind of does everything. He hits. He's got power. He's got a little bit of speed. But what I really love him for is the triple eligibility. First, second, and shortstop. Guy that that really helps your team cope with any injuries, cope with COVID, cope with underperformances. A guy that he's not going to hurt you in any category. Allows you to stay balanced within a draft. I love guys like that. And so those guys for me allow me to have more options as the draft continue. So anytime I see him around that spot, I go, okay. Especially if I need one of those positions, I start going, yeah. I think Cronenworth is a good guy to kind of help me add more flexibility to my team. So I like Jake Cronenworth at the price.
He's interesting. He's got like really elite like contact skills. But the average isn't great. And I think he probably just needs to hit more hard hits and line drives. Like I think he puts the ball in the bat, but the bat and the ball, but it's not always, forceful. But I think he's got something. And the interesting thing to me is even though he's 28, he kind of came late because they originally used him as a pitcher. They drafted him as a pitcher, and then he kind of switched to hitting. I mean, I get that he hit, in high school and college or whatever, but they were really developing him as a pitcher first, and then they decided to make him into a hitter. And so I think that there could still be possibly another level, another gear there, maybe not another level, but another gear there to kind of take him up another notch. So,
and I'd argue that he actually was pretty unlucky. He had like a 283 BABIP this year. His X batting average was 280.
I would expect him to hit definitely closer to 280 than I would 260, 270. So, and I think he could hit, closer to 290 even. So we'll see.
Yep. I think so too. I agree. I really like his ability or his bat to ball ability. So,
yeah.
Who's the guy you're fading?
So you kind of mentioned this earlier with some of the closers, and this is kind of an area where a couple guys go. Camilo Doval for your Giants and Corey Knebel for the Phillies. Like again, it's just I'm paying the cost. I know it's the 9th round, but I can't do it. I'm paying for a cost for guys that I don't know if they're going to get saves. Neither of them have that closer track record. I know Knebel has closed before, and obviously Doval closed at the end of the year for the Giants. But until I hear, we don't even know if their teams are going to be done signing guys. They could easily sign guys to come. Both of those are playoff teams, so they could be signing guys to come in and close who have that closer label, and that means something to managers. So until I hear that they're the guy, I'm not spending a 9th rounder on those guys.
Yeah, I don't think the Giants will sign another guy, but they also have multiple guys on that team.
I know you love Rodrigo. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think McGee. Like McGee, until he got hurt, was
when his velocity was there. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, for sure.
And so like, there's no guarantee that it's Doval.
They could share the role. They could share the role
between righty and lefty, or it could just be McGee. Right. And we have, don't get me wrong, Doval was impressive.
Yeah, he was.
But do we remember what he did in the first half? Like, relievers change on a dime. Like, like he could easily revert back to being the guy he was. I can't pay that price, and we're going to hear, this is going to be one of the most hotly debated subjects, really, is relief pitching this year, because especially the way we're seeing these prices early on. Because there are going to be people like say, "Oh, I'm gonna wait on saves," because we hear that all the time. And I think you're with me. I'd much rather pay for saves early on and not deal with this bullshit later. Because, like, I think Knebel is an interesting guy, and the Phillies have said they're done going after free agent closers, but Kimbrel's going to land somewhere. And the
Yeah.
Phillies seem like a fantastic landing spot.
And Kennedy's going to land somewhere, and Colome is going to land somewhere. Like, these guys are going to get jobs.
Yeah, Knievel has not been the healthiest guy. And that Phillies bullpen is atrocious. They need to add more. Like that Phillies bullpen has not gotten better just by adding Knievel. They need a ton more there. So I'd much rather pay a third through fifth or third through sixth round draft pick on a closer or two than deal with the guys going 7th through 12th round. I mean, there are a few minor exceptions on both sides of that, but for the most part, I'd much rather leave the 6th round with 2 guys than, try to get 2 guys in this spot, or do the opposite. If I don't end up getting, because I've had a draft that I'm doing right now where I was not able to get a closer in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round or earlier, I waited till like 12, and I just bunch of Lou Trevino, Dylan Floro,
and that's a better way to do it. The thing that people don't understand about drafting saves is they think like you should take the guys who are the most overrated, the guys who give the whole category this sense of, oh well, fuck saves, I hate saves. It's those guys who are after the safe guys. Those top guys like these two, who people are like, well, the skills are so great, but the skills don't fucking matter. It's all about the role and the job security. That is literally all you care about. You're not going to win your ratios based on having closers who have really, really great ratios. Like, you're getting ratios from your starters. Like, those guys are useless. You're going to drop them unless they're giving you saves. So you don't want those all or nothing picks. What you did was correct. Wait till later. Take some late shots on guys who maybe don't have the same level of skills, but they're basically the same, like, job security wise. They're at the same point as these guys. Those are, you're taking them like 5-6 rounds later or whatever. That's a much better way to go about it. And then you can take a bunch of shots on guys. And then, so you take, 4 different guys who you're hoping end up with the job. And then if they don't get the job, you drop them week 1. But personally, if I can get those early closers, I'd much prefer that, because you're either paying one way or another. You're either paying the draft cost or you're paying the fab cost. And paying the fab cost can end up really screwing you over in season to the point where you're not going to be able to compete, because sometimes you don't even know if a guy has the job. Like, you see a guy get a save and you pay $200 for him, and then they're not even the closer. So it's a huge gamble to not come away with at least one closer you can depend on.
Absolutely. And these were going to be my fades too for this round, so we can just move on, because that's a really small grouping right there for that round. So let's go ahead and move to round 10. We're talking about picks 135 through 150. Who's your guy that you're going for?
Yeah, so it's again, like, at first base, there's so many guys who just have the same kind of skills. They've got plenty of power. They hit for a mediocre average. They give you runs and RBI. And I said, like, I could basically get the same thing out of Pete Alonso 100 picks later. And that's exactly what I think Rhys Hoskins is. You might get a little less in counting stats. Obviously, Alonso has a little bit more power, maybe a slightly better average, but ultimately I'm getting the exact same things. And I don't have to pay that huge exorbitant cost. And so Rhys Hoskins is my guy here. This guy has 45 homer power. He's got plenty good enough contact skills. He's got a 75% contact rate and 83% zone contact rate. The zone contact rate isn't as good, but the contact rate is there. He's got a 112 max EV, 46% hard hit rate, 17% barrel rate last year, which has been on a 2-year upswing too. I just think that if I'm going to be waiting on first base, I'm fine taking a guy like in the 10th round or even later, and still getting. I don't feel like I'm losing a lot compared to the guys who go there early.
Yeah, I think because I agree with you. I do think that if Hoskins is able to stay healthy, he could be a Pete Alonso-ish.
Well, this was the only year that he had any health issues. Like, he was healthy 18, 19, 20, just 21. He had a couple things come up, but I don't think it's anything that's going to hinder him going into the 2022.
I don't think it is either, but we haven't heard anything. Like, it's been kind of radio silent on it. And he did end the season, and that's my big concerns. It's not his only injury, too. He had an injury coming into the season as well, remember? So, because he only played 41 games in 2020.
Okay, so I've got UCL on September 13th, 2020,
Yep.
surgery on 10/5, and then a groin injury on
Yes, he had
July 29th. Yeah, so groin and UCL.
and a groin, and then he had an abdominal surgery in the offseason.
Right, yeah, because he returned early. They gave him a cortisone shot. Then he returned for a couple of games, and they went back to the IL, and then surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But so surgery is what I want to see. That's the thing. If a guy doesn't have a procedure done, then I'm concerned. When I see surgery, I feel okay about it.
But that being said, like I agree with you. Like I actually, I've been busting him up my ranks a little bit because as long as he is healthy coming into the season, which I'm going to assume he will be, then I think like you said, I think he's got a ton of upside. Especially with the DH coming in the National League, most likely they'll be able to give him days off as a DH. He won't have to play the field, every day as well. True. So
and he's hitting in a good lineup, and he should be hitting second there with Segura probably hitting ahead of him, and Harper and Real Muto hitting behind him. Like I love that slot for him.
Yeah, 107 games, he had 27 home runs. So if we can get him to 150, that
wasn't even healthy. So yeah.
So, all right. There's a number of guys in this tier that I really like, and so this one's a really really difficult one for me. But I'm going to talk about a trio of pitchers that I really like.
Well, that's really interesting because I was struggling to find guys I liked in this area. There's like two.
Really?
Yeah, maybe three.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a bunch of guys I like in this area. There's a lot more that I like than I dislike. Okay. But let's first talk about Chris Bassett. Now, Chris Bassett is a guy that people are going to be like, he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts. Chris Bassett has been like a fantastic pitcher for the last 4 years. Like he's been really, really good. And I understand he doesn't have like the strikeout upside to be a guy that, ends up, really becoming an ace. And I think people, what they're doing is they're trying to find aces, potentially here. I want a guy who is not going to hurt me. I want a guy in this area that is not going to disappoint me. Chris Bassett pitching in Oakland in that Coliseum, he is not going to hurt you. And had he not had just the flukiest of fluke injuries with a ball hitting him upside the head on a comebacker, he would have capped off an amazing season, a guy that potentially could actually throw 200 innings next year. I really like Chris Bassett because of the floor being so extremely high. Also really like both Houston Astros pitchers in this tier in Luis Garcia and Framber Valdez. All three of these guys are top 35 pitchers to me.
Wow.
So again, this is what I talk about in terms of like the reason why I can't remember which pitcher it was. Oh, it was Trevor Rogers. In terms of like not seeing him potentially jump so high in terms of the ADP moving forward is because there are a lot of really good pitchers going later that I think might help the starting pitching landscape not push up as much as it usually does.
So who he kind of reminds me of, which can be both a good thing or a bad thing. Now, granted, very different. He doesn't throw 86 mile an hour fastball like this guy does, but he constantly outpitches his peripherals. Like his ERA, his expected ERA is always shitty. Like it's always way higher than what he ends up at. And I think some guys just are able to harness their stuff and outpitch basically their talent. Like they're better than what the sum of their parts are, or the sum of their parts are better than the individual, or whatever you want to call it. But Kyle Hendricks is kind of like he was always that kind of guy. That's also kind of what scares me about Bassett, right? Like, because Kyle Hendricks just blew up last year, but I think
Kyle Hendricks blew up
the ball, and he also throws 86. So I get that they're not the same guy.
Yeah. So Kyle Hendricks, it's because Kyle Hendricks relies so much on pinpoint command.
Right.
That's the reason why he blew up. Bassett isn't that guy. Like Bassett's not like he may not be blowing guys away and stuff, and he does rely on command and control, but he doesn't have the margins, the thin margins of error that a guy like Hendricks or even a guy like Zach Plesac has. Like the reason why those guys struggled this year was because they just lost a little bit of that command within the zone, and all of a sudden you're like, they're leaving balls up that are just getting destroyed. Bassett's not that guy. Like I really don't worry about Chris Bassett that much. Now he won't become anybody's SP2 this year necessarily, like in terms of overall production, but he's not going to be worse than like an SP4.
So what I want to know is, so he pitched 2014, 2015, 2016, then he missed. I think he got hurt in 2016 and then missed all of 2017. So I'm assuming it was like Tommy John or something. Came back in 2018 and he stopped throwing his slider. And then he didn't throw it in 2019. And then in 2020, he threw it minimally, like 3% of the time. And then last year, it was up to 10% of the time. And it was a good pitch for him. And I really think that that's why we saw the strikeout spike last year, because of the slider. The slider is a big strikeout pitch. So my question is he going to continue throwing the slider more? Because if he throws that slider, if he ups that percentage from 10 to like 20, I think he could be like legit really good next year. Because I do believe that he's the kind of guy who can outpitch his peripherals continuously, because he's literally done it every single year other than 2016, which was only a 5-start. I don't really count that even. So like he's constantly done this. So yeah, I believe what I'm seeing with him, and I'm really interested in if that K rate can kind of keep going up, if he can increase his slider usage.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who got to 157 innings while missing a month because of that head injury.
Right.
So like
right.
he would have gotten close to 200 innings had he.
Yeah, and that's a fluke injury. That's nothing we're concerned about.
Not worried about that at all.
No.
So like, even if his K rate stays at a strikeout an inning, like he will volume his way to 200 strikeouts or pretty damn close to it. Plus, like you said, there might be another level.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting to me, is the fact that there might be well, maybe not even another level, but if he can keep that even like 9 or even up into like 10K per 9 somewhere in there, it doesn't have to be like 12K per 9. Or I don't think he has that in him, but even just staying, like you said, at 1K per 9, that's good.
Yeah.
At 9K per 9, not 1.
Let's talk about the guy you don't like.
Yeah, and it's a guy who absolutely destroyed the league until he got hurt, and that's Carlos Rodon. It really comes down to the fact that I mean, the skills are legit. This is a former first-round pick, like a guy that we were kind of waiting for to finally break out, but then he, missed a lot of time with injuries. Finally so he had Tommy John in May of 2019. Then he had a shoulder injury in 2020 in August. He overhauled his delivery in the offseason before 2021. He had back and hamstring issues in May of 21. He had a shoulder injury that shut him down ultimately in early August. So that alone, that shoulder injury and all the innings that he put on after not pitching for a couple of years, that concerned me already. The big thing for me is the White Sox didn't even give him the qualifying offer, which is a huge red flag. Like, why would a playoff team not want to give him that qualifying offer unless they think that he's probably fucked this year?
A team that was willing to spend $15 million or $16 million on a year for Craig Kimbrell with that option,
right?
Was unwilling to give him, and he's my fade here too, because like I said,
yeah,
I really like a lot of the people in this grouping right here. Unfortunately, as much as I like him as a pitcher, and I benefited from him like in the tag team league and TGFBI, I just can't, especially when we don't know where he's going to be pitching.
Right.
And yeah, it is a little bit worrisome that they did not even offer him a QL. He probably would have turned it down, but the fact that they didn't offer to him at all tells me exactly, a team that's competing that does not seem to be afraid to spend money right now,
right,
is not willing to do that. So let's go to the next round. Who's a guy that you like in this 150 to 165 range?
Yeah, I went with another first baseman. And I might even prefer him to Rhys Hoskins, but around later, and that's Joey Votto. Last year, I know, and people who know me, I don't love old players, but the thing is, I don't like guys who have to rely on their speed. And Votto has been very healthy throughout his career. I know he missed some games last year, but nothing significant. And the thing is, guys can maintain their power in their late 30s. I mean, we see it with Nelson Cruz in his 40s now. So, I mean, we saw it with David Ortiz. I remember when Marlon Byrd kind of came out of nowhere in his late 30s with a huge power season. Like, I mean, there's infinite examples, but power has never really been an issue. The thing with Joey Votto is he's like the smartest hitter in baseball. He knows exactly what he can do, and he knew that he had to change the way he approached the game in order to stay relevant, pretty much. And so he pretty much gave up some of his contact. He gave back some of his contact and just started selling out for more power. And, the last 2 years he was at 113 and then 114 max EV. He was never a guy with a big max EV. He had a 17% barrel rate. And his contact rate is still plenty good enough to get the job done. He's going to hit 250 to 270, and that's fine. He can still give you 35 homers hitting in the middle of that lineup. So I absolutely love Votto where he goes this year.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. I think I'm actually surprised he's even going this high, because usually guys or people want to fade the older players. But yeah, I mean, I like the changes he made. He decided, hey, listen, I'm gonna strike out a little bit more when I'm gonna show you a hell of a lot more power.
Exactly.
And like, they will bury him at first base and in the third position, even when he is dead. Like Joey Votto is going to hit third in that lineup,
Yep.
and play first base. And as much as a guy I'm going to mention here in a minute, I think Tyler Stevenson is going to get some DH in Cincinnati. I think Joey Votto is going to get a lot of DH in Cincinnati, to keep him healthy. And so I think that's a really, really, really good call on Joey Votto. The guy I want to talk about, because there's a few guys. We already mentioned Tyler Stevenson, and that and I've talked about him quite a bit. Over the last few months, is a guy that I'm really going to be targeting, a guy who I think is going to get some DHing from the catcher position. But the guy that I haven't been able to talk enough about, who I really have kind of turned around on, really kind of ignored last year when I shouldn't have ignored him, and I kind of didn't do enough research on him early on in draft season, is Ranger Suarez. Man, he is really, really impressive. I went back and watched some game film from him, really dug into the numbers, and I think he's legit. I really do. Like, what he was able to do in season, going from a reliever to a starter that actually could go deep into games. This reminds me so much, and you'll appreciate this being a Cleveland guy, of what Carlos Carrasco did going from a reliever to a starter in Cleveland. It reminds me so much of it. I think he's absolutely legitimate, and could end up being like a huge bargain, in spite of the fact that he's going, around pick 160 something. I really like Ranger Suarez. What say you on Mr. Suarez?
It's a guy I have not personally dug into enough yet, where I didn't really have a strong opinion one way or another, which generally would mean I probably wouldn't have ended up with him. But I can definitely see myself getting in on him, because he does have, he's got the right repertoire. I mean, it's really just going to come down to, I guess. But even if he does, I mean, I don't think he's going to go 200 innings. He's probably going to be like a 160, something like that, and that's fine. Like, you're talking about your 11th round pick or whatever. That's perfectly fine. And yeah, I mean, he really limits hard contact, doesn't give up home runs. It's going to be, I'm definitely going to be doing some more research on him moving forward, because a lot of the people that I respect, so not you, but other people, are in on him. So
our boy John Legeza, MLB Moving Average, he's a big fan as well. My buddy Nick Pollock hates Ranger Suarez for some reason. I mean, him and I are gonna have to have a talk about this.
That I remember hearing that. So what's his opposition to Ranger
I don't
Suarez?
know. I've just been told. I have not had a conversation with Nick about why he hates Ranger Suarez so much, but I mean, he brought his strike rate up to 11% last year. Gets a lot of called strikes. Like, this is a guy that really fools hitters.
The one thing is, we have to separate his relief numbers from his starting numbers. So the only thing is, I'm looking at his overall numbers. I need to look at his numbers as just a starter, which should be here under the splits. Let's see. I know this is
Riveting.
thrilling podcast stuff. Okay, so it looks like as a starter and reliever, his K percentage is pretty close, like 25 compared to 26.5. The walk rate somehow got better, maybe because he wasn't throwing as hard. The BABIP normalized as a starter, but his xFIP was the same. It was like 3.39 compared to 3.36. 9K per 9, 2.6 walks per 9. I don't know that he has the upside of an ace, but I think he has the upside of a very solid starter.
I think he has the upside of a number 2 or number 3, depending on what his innings totals can be. So I think the real question is, what kind of innings limit are we going to see on him? Is he a guy that's only going to be able to go 150 because he only threw 105 or 106 innings? But I'd like you to guess what his barrel percentage was as a starter.
Oh, I know it was super low. I want to say it was 1 or 2% or something like that.
It was 1.7%.
Yeah,
he gave up 3 barrels as a starter.
Crazy.
He is a really difficult guy to square up, and so I think people might be a little bit afraid of the DH coming in the National League, having to pitch in Philadelphia.
Right.
I'm not worried about that at all with him. I think he's a guy that, can probably be very Chris Bassett-ish.
I was thinking the same thing, and again, maybe more of that SP3 kind of safer guy. Not doesn't have the massive upside. And granted, this is only in 66 innings, so who knows if he gets more exposed, the more he pitches. But I think that things like barrel rate allowed kind of stabilize earlier. I don't think you need necessarily a huge sample of that. But
and when you're giving up a 6-degree launch angle on average, that's a pretty good sign. And I know part of the critique that Nick Pollock had, that I think Paul mentioned to me, was that his schedule was really, really light as a starter.
Okay.
But and I get that. At the same time, there's only, he can't control who he goes up against. All he can do is pitch like a stud.
Right.
And that's what he did. He also did go up against a Washington team that hadn't sold yet. The Dodgers, the Rays. So yes, were there a bunch of lighter teams on that? Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Miami, obviously yes, but he also did well against the big boys too. So I'm not.
He's also going in kind of a dead zone for starters. There's not a lot of guys going in that area, and the guys who are Sonny Gray, I know who he is. I'm not really interested in that. Mike Kopech. Great stuff. Could be great one day, but they've already said they're limiting him.
Did you just call him Kopech?
Is it Kopech?
Michael Kopech, yeah.
Michael Kopech. All right. We know that they're limiting him. So as much as I would love to take Kopech, I don't think he's really going to be a 5-inning guy. Maybe at the end of the season or something. But I have zero interest in McCullers with his injuries. So there's nothing else really there that I like. So if I need a pitcher in this area, Ranger Suarez is 100% the route I'm going to go right now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, let's guys, we are fading in this area.
Yeah, I chose Yohan Moncada. This guy needs a 350 BABIP just to hit 260. I mean, I think people are still obsessed with the 2019 season and his elite prospect status, but this guy doesn't give a fuck about baseball. He's too busy doing his MTV music videos and shit in the offseason. I want nothing to do with this guy. I don't think he cares. I don't believe in him. He doesn't run anymore. If you have to have a 400 BABIP to hit for a good average, pass.
I actually I'm kind of fading him too. There's just too many guys who are actually at third base that I like going around him or right below him that I'd much rather have. And hopefully, very rarely am I going to enter this point of a draft and not have a third baseman. Third base is usually what I'm going to be targeting earlier on.
Yes, for sure.
And it's because I don't like a lot of third baseman. I'm in a GC right now where I didn't do that, where I really prioritized taking best available player. As opposed to roster construction, and I'm regretting it thoroughly. I love my first 6 picks. It's a fantastic start. But then I go, oh no, I don't have saves, I don't have enough speed, and I don't have a third baseman. I think.
Come on, Justin, I've taught you better than this. This is a
But this is what. No. It's not, because what I use these early drafts for is taking chances and learning the player pool and learning where the dips and things are. So this is by design.
So
But
you have to make bad picks in order to learn the player pool. Is that what you're telling me?
not necessarily. It's a matter of I want to try different things and see how it plays out. And the only way to do that is by doing it. It's trial by fire.
Says you.
Well, I mean, I like it. It's
all right.
And
let me know how that league goes compared to the ones
that league is not going to go well.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm saying.
And part of it is just how sharp that room is. Paul Spore's in the room, Zach Waxman, the guy you just talked to on the High Stakes Heat
James
podcast.
Tomini.
Yeah, James Tomini drafted in that room with me.
He's good.
And he is just kicking my ass. I wish you had recorded that podcast a month ago, so that way I'd have this information. And I've been in a league with him before, and I know how good he is.
Yeah, he's so good.
But he has just I think I'm drafted from the 8 or 9 spot, and he's drafted from the 4 spot. He is absolutely murdering my Q every round. Fuck, damn, dude.
Who did he get to start with? Did he get JRAM or something to start?
I will grab it real quick.
That's okay. You can do it as we go along. I was just curious. You can give me the next prompt, and then you can start looking.
So no. I will tell you. He started Soto, Julio Urias, and then Cedric Mullins in the 3rd.
Okay.
And this is a 15.
Okay.
So but yeah, I mean he has.
So he took Cedric from you in the 3rd.
Oh, I was. Because I made the choice, because I'm drafting from the 9th spot. I made the choice to pass on Cedric Mullins in the 2nd. Took Freddie Freeman, just because I wanted to see one if he'd make it back, because I'd seen some drafts he made it back in the middle of the 3rd round, and 2, I wanted to see where he would go when I didn't take him. So it's my first and only draft so far this season. I do not have Cedric Mullins on. But yeah, he murdered me there. He's murdered me all throughout this draft. He seems like a really nice guy, having listened to your podcast.
He is.
But he's kind of a dick in a draft room. I hate to say it. So,
I mean, we all want to be a dick in the draft room. Nobody nobody wants to be the guy that everybody wants to draft.
He seems like the type of guy I would like to invite to a barbecue, but I'm not going to invite to my fantasy league. So, that being said, I don't even know where we're at. Let's. My guy that I'm fading.
Yeah,
I could fade half this round.
It's a rough part of the draft.
Yeah, I mean there were a number of guys in this spot that I can fade. We've got Blake Trinan and Gregory Soto.
I stopped doing prospective closers after the 2 that I listed, because I could do that every round.
Scott Barlow, 3 guys that. That could easily not be the closers by the time we get to opening day.
Even I don't even expect Barlow to be the closer, honestly. That's just
there's all this Gregory Soto love. Do people realize he is just not a good pitcher?
I mean, I took him at first pitch because I was desperate. I do think that he'll have the job. I don't know that he'll keep it though, because he's not, like you say, he's not very good. They just don't have any.
I don't know that he has the job.
It's possible he signed someone, because I mean they're obviously spending money.
Or they could go with Michael Fulmer again. They could,
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they could. Who knows? He could start with a job and then lose in the first week.
I agree. I don't like him.
I do not understand a lot of that. Other guys that I'm fading, I just can't seem to get on the Alex Verdugo bandwagon.
No.
I just have never been a fan. He just seems like such a math player to me.
He struggles versus lefties too, and he's a left-handed hitter, and those guys get platooned a lot.
Yeah. Dylan Carlson's an interesting guy, because I do see why people are intrigued by him, and he did work his way up the lineup by the end of the season. I just don't know that he has any carrying tool in fantasy. He just seems like a sum of all parts kind of guy, which is fine.
Yeah.
I just would like, I don't have the park for him. I just would like to see him do something really well, as opposed to just hey, he's kind of good at everything. I don't know, just maybe I'm asking too much. But let's move on to round 12. And we're gonna have some disagreements right here.
Okay, that's fair.
Because
This is a rough. This might have been the toughest part of the draft for me
okay,
in terms of finding someone that I liked.
because the guy you like is someone who I continue to fade.
That's fair.
So to talk about the
This
guy
is
you
how I
like.
feel. This is how I feel right now. It might not be how I feel in a month or two.
Okay.
So, but honestly, I don't like anybody in this area.
It's kind of a rough spot in the draft, yeah.
I kind of forgot. I missed the last guy available in this part. I could have taken Tarek Skubal. I do like him. But I decided to go with Brennan Rogers. Who I do like. Obviously, he has issues. He does have injury issues, but in his first go around of actually getting in some solid at bats at the MLB level, I think they're pretty much dedicated to giving him playing time now. And the guy has really good contact ability. He's got an 80% contact rate and an 87% zone contact rate, 112 max EV. The barrel rate and the hard hit rate, 6% and 40%, not great. But he's in Coors. I think he can make some things happen in Coors. I do think that there will be a pretty good year coming from him at some point. Whether that's this year or not, I don't know. This is a former number 3 overall pick. I do hate the Rockies though. Like I hate them. They could easily end up sitting him at some point just for the hell of it. Throw Hampson in there or something. But they seemed pretty dedicated to him last year once they kind of realized that they were rebuilding. So I don't know. He does intrigue me. This was more of a pick that I don't love anybody in this part though.
Okay, that makes more sense because for me, it's the health issues with him. I mean, he's a guy who has struggled through the minor leagues with health issues. I think people are still going back to thinking that he at some point is going to turn into this elite player that we thought he might coming out of college and in his early seasons in the minor leagues. He does not run.
Right.
People think, oh, he's power speed. No, he's just power, and it's not really that much power. The batting average will be good in Colorado because that's what Colorado does is boost up people's batting averages. So for that matter, and I don't think he's necessarily a bad pick. He's so mad. I'm not going to pay the price on a guy that's really kind of like Cesar Hernandez-ish.
If I could go back and do it over, I would take Skubal over him.
Yeah, I think Skubal is a good pick as well. This is kind of a gross tier.
I could just fade this whole 15 pick selection. Much.
I will say, as much as I faded him last year and was kind of wrong, the price on Lance McCullers, now that's going to go up because we just got some news yesterday that he started pitching. The price right now on Lance McCullers is pretty nice because there is a ton of talent there. I know there's some risk in terms of injuries, but we, like I said, got some good news yesterday that he's pitching. I probably will begin to fade him as the price skyrockets because
it means jack shit that he started throwing. It means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
No, it's a good sign that he started throwing.
He's not. So you think he's just be ready to go like full bore by the beginning of the season?
I think he will.
He ended the season on October 12th with a forearm injury. I'm full fade on McCullers.
Yeah, but they did. They looked at. He went and saw the doctor that did his TJ surgery. They did MRIs. Everything was clean. He's had no ill effects through the offseason.
Then why did he just start throwing now then if he was fine?
Because they wanted him to take the time off. Just to be they were playing it safe with him. So
because he's not healthy.
No, a lot of guys take time off. A lot of guys don't start throwing until now. That's not October. Yeah, a lot of guys do not throw at all until the beginning of January.
All right. Well, if you want to make a side bet with me on McCullers and innings this year, I'll probably take you up on it.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say 160 or 180 or anything like that, but
what do you expect? What's a good price for him then? At 175, you're okay with 120 innings or 80 innings?
Well, I think I think 130 is fine. 130 of elite work.
Elite? Okay.
He's pretty elite, dude. When he's on the mound.
Okay.
let's who we said we're fading this whole tier. So like,
Yeah, I
is
know.
there anybody specifically? I mean, we both talked about Max Muncy as much as we have both loved Max Muncy in the
Yeah,
past, and I
yeah,
do love Max Muncy.
right.
Um,
No,
I
full fade. I don't even know if he's going to play this year, like at all.
Yeah, I think there's a potential Tommy John coming. And
Yeah,
while that's not as big of an issue for hitters as it is for pitchers, it would pretty much mean he'd miss the majority of the season,
right. No, I
if
mean,
not all of it.
like I said, I'm not in on Sonny Gray, Eddie Rosario, not really. Kopech, no. Avisail's going too high. We talked about Brennan Rogers. I don't really particularly care for Ryan McMahon. I don't want any part of Lance McCullers. There's just nothing here that like Muncy's a full fade. Adolis Garcia is a full fade. That was actually my fade pick for this. I mean, if you look at what Adolis Garcia did in the second half of the season, like it was just horrific. Like just everything was bad. Just everything.
The only thing he did was still steal bases. He stole 8 bases. But he was.
I don't think
he reverted right back to the guy that he had been prior to the huge first half, which was the guy that just swings at everything, misses a lot. You know, there is power, there is speed, but this is like Twilight Years Carlos Gomez.
Yeah.
Which is not gonna. The only thing is like there's not much in Texas to like compete with him for outfield time. Like he's gonna play.
I think that I don't know. I think they'll find someone if he can't. If he's hitting like 200, which is a very real possibility. I mean, they've got guys who are going to be coming up, and they can move guys around. I mean, they should have Jung coming up soon.
Jung can't play the outfield. Jung is an infielder, but
right, I'm sure, but they can move guys around, right? Like, who do they have here?
They really don't have. I mean, they've got Nick Solak, they got Leody Taveras, they've got Eli White.
I mean, they can play Willie Calhoun in the outfield if they need to. I know he's more.
Willie Calhoun is not a good outfield. I mean, they can do it in a pinch,
but at least he can hit the ball. I don't know. I mean,
but they still. I mean, that's the rest. I mean, they signed Cole Calhoun to play the outfield.
I know.
Like that. Like I think he's gonna play, but I think he could also give you a sub 200 batting average,
right? And that's even worse than him like being not playing. You can just release him. So
if you're gonna take a gamble on someone like him this early, you have to have the nicest batting average foundation, and it's hard to have that. Like still have counting stats.
In the first pitch Arizona draft, I drafted him in the 18th round. Okay, like. This is round 12 he's going in. Yeah. I would not even remotely touch him in the 12th. And it's like, but by the 18th round, I was just like looking for like, okay, who's
I think that's a fine gamble in the 18th round. I'm not doing that in the top 15 rounds. So
yeah.
All right, let's move on to round 13. Who you got is your guy you're going after?
Yeah, this is a guy that I'm way in on. This is not just a question of nobody else being there. So this is Tanner Houck. I think this guy has everything that you need in a potential ace. And there's a lot of questions about his role. Will they keep him in the rotation? He's kind of like Mcclanahan, where I'm not expecting him to go more than 5-6 innings in an outing, and he's in the AL East, which is not ideal. But I think that he's pitching for a team with a really good offense, and he's just got phenomenal stuff. His slider is elite. He's got a really good fastball. And that's really all I need. I need a guy who has 3+ pitches, good fastball. If they have a good slider, that's a huge bonus. 2.7 walks per 9, 11.35 K per 9. And our boy David Mendelson wrote a really nice article about him on Fantrax. I think it was earlier this week. And I recommend you guys check that out if you have some time. But yeah, I think that he can be everything that Freddie Peralta did going into last year. I think Freddie Peralta had slightly better stuff, but the questions with the role and the longevity and all that stuff, kind of the same kind of guy. And I think the upside is massive here. And you're talking about the 13th round, you could be getting an SP2 here.
I completely agree. I'm right there with you on how I think the role is the big concern, but when you start looking at the rest of that Red Sox rotation, Rich Hill, Nate Eovaldi, Chris Sale, Michael Wacha, like these are all huge risks. I think he will even if he doesn't start with a role in the rotation. I imagine he will be in that rotation in short order once one of the guys gets hurt or is just atrocious. Nick Pivetta, another guy in that rotation. Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
clearly is going to end up in the rotation. And if you've ever, like, if you should be following Pitching Ninja, but Pitching Ninja's done some great, like, side-by-sides or sometimes overlays of him and Chris Sale because they're, like, exactly the same from the opposite direction, right? So, Chris Sale's a
Interesting.
lefty and Houck is a righty. Like, it's...
They both have that elite slider, man.
Yeah, well, but their pitching motions are exactly the same. Look, it's
Yeah.
it's
I mean, it's probably not an accident. You know, I mean, they both pitch for the same team. They probably, I'm sure he's soaked up all of Chris Sale's knowledge, and Sale's kind of helped him develop that probably.
Yeah, yeah. So I like that Houck call. This is a tier. It's so funny. Like the previous round, I hated. This one I love. Like, I mean, there's so many guys.
And that's like. and in those situations, you guys should never force a pick, right? Like take Absolutely. A guy who's going in the next tier. It doesn't matter. I'd much
rather take a guy in this round in round 12 than a lot of the guys who are ADP in round 12. Right. I mean, it's hard for me to zero in on one specific guy, but I will because we've talked so much trash about closers. Taylor Rogers, I really like. I think he is the guy in Minnesota. He's shown the ability to be a really, really effective closer. Going, pick 190 right now. I would much rather fade a lot of the guys we've talked about already going ahead of him and wait till this round to grab him as a closer, or even round 12 grab him as a closer because, Colomé's gone. There's not a lot of competition in that bullpen unless they trade him, which they potentially could. I think he's the closer in Minnesota, so I like Taylor Rogers here. Also, really like his teammate Joe Ryan. I think Joe Ryan is about as finished of a product coming out of the minor leagues as we've seen in a while. Like, I think what we saw out of him late last season is absolutely legit. Really like Ian Happ. I've been waiting on the Ian Happ bandwagon for a long time, and I think he's finally quietly put it all together and could be a really, really interesting piece, and people aren't buying kind of the changes he made last year. So, but like I said, I kind of like Mancini, kind of like Wong, like Benintendi. I'm going to do my fade first because then you and I are going to argue about your fade.
Let me just say this on Taylor Rogers, though. My concern is that the Twins have not been a team that, and specifically with Rogers, they have never really been like, this is our guy. I know that he had that 1 year where I think it was 2019 where he got like 30 saves with them. But even then they went to other guys at times and they still didn't commit to him in 2020. And last year, even though I like the skills a lot, I do think that they have other guys there that can close. They've got, Tyler Duffy and Alcala. I just don't know that they're a team that needs a set closer. And until I hear for certain this is our guy, I mean, I don't hate it because you're talking about round 13. I just also don't love it.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair critique. And there are other guys even later that are interesting as well. I mentioned like Dylan Floro and guys like that, Trevino, things like that. The guy I'm fading in this round is a guy that I have been going and drafting for a very long time, but I think the writing is on the wall, and it's Clayton Kershaw. And I know people are going to be like, oh, Clayton Kershaw was like a second-round pick for years, and now he's going 13th round, you're fading him. I am petrified that he is just not healthy, that he needs TJ, and he's not going to end up on my team this year. I just can't do it, even at the huge discount of a guy who's been perennial second, third rounder, going 10 rounds plus later. Just not going to do it.
I'm sorry. It kind of cut out there. Who did you say?
Clayton Kershaw.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't even consider him here because I just thought it was so obvious. Like there's I'm 100% sure that Kershaw is a terrible pick. It's really simple as that. Like he had a forearm injury July 7th, came back mid-September for 4 short outings. He had no surgery and those 3 little letters, PRP injection. Yeah. So he's fucked. He's gonna need surgery at some point. I will have no interest in him whatsoever.
There was even talk that he was considering retiring, even though he's not that old.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was just rumors, nothing
Okay.
substantial. But
Okay. Well, I mean, you're out there. You're out that way. You'd hear this kind of stuff, I guess.
so, uh, who is your fade? Because
I know
I'm
you're
not
you're gonna you're
happy.
gonna disagree. I
I've
know.
already talked about how
I
I
know.
kind of prefer him over other guys we've talked about. So go
Well,
ahead.
I mean, that's fine because you're talking about round 13 compared to round like what we're talking about, like 8, 9,
7,
or
yeah.
7. Yeah, like of course, I prefer him compared to them too. But okay, so this is Luis Severino.
Mm-hmm.
He got Tommy John February of 2020, late February.
Mm-hmm.
His return was delayed by groin injury, several more delays, including a shoulder injury. It kind of just reminds you, just because a guy gets Tommy John, you can't just assume that he's going to come back, and be back when they say he's going to be back. Like there's often setbacks and all that stuff. So could Severino be okay going into this year? He could be. He returned as a reliever for 4 outings in September of last year. And as you
Mm-hmm.
said, he looked good, but he looked good as a reliever. I mean, how built up is he going to be going into this year? How many innings is he going to throw? Is he going to be isn't he going to be rusty coming off of not playing? I just, it's because it's round 13, it's fine, but at the same time, I'm just not interested. It's just not the route that I'm going to go.
That's fair, and I probably won't draft him a ton either. I'll take some speculative shots here and there, but I've always been a Severino guy. He's always been good when he's pitched. He did come back, and we did get to see him. Yes, it was only 6 innings, but it was 6 really really good innings. And I'd much rather see a guy finish on the mound, coming back from that. By the time he starts pitching in 2022, it'll be 2 full years since his Tommy John. The thing that we worry about is command and control. And his command and control looked pretty good when he was on the mound for those 6 innings. I actually encourage you to go watch those 6 innings because
Okay,
they were actually really impressive. So,
that's fair.
and then he also pitched in the postseason. Not much. I think it was like an inning or two.
It's
But
it's it's hard to judge a guy from what he does as a reliever going in as a starter.
sure.
That's my only thing.
But just from a
but
health
I hear you. Yeah.
perspective, it's encouraging to see the guy on the mound and pitching well. So,
Right,
you
for
know,
sure.
but yeah, so I disagree. That being said, I also don't have a problem fade if people want to fade him there. This isn't like one of those where I start screaming, you got to take him. No. This is hey, I really really like my base here. And
Has to be the
honestly,
right roster construction to
yep.
accommodate him. Yeah.
And honestly, it's the ADP is the median, right? It's the mean. It's the average draft position, right? I want to get him 3 or 4 rounds later. I want to be in a room of guys with you who are fading him and be able to get him 3 or 4 rounds later. I don't want
Yeah,
to take him
I
in
get
round
that.
13. I want to take him in round 16. All right, let's move on to round 14, and you and I are in lockstep right here, because this may be the best value going on at all right now. Please talk about Big Daddy.
Yeah, so a guy that I've always been out on because the price was cost prohibitive for me in the past, given his age, but now he's fallen all the way to the 14th round, and that's Nelson Cruz. I mean, it's really as simple as like the guy is still has plenty of power, and if he can get out of Tampa, I would especially like him.
Yeah, he will be out of Tampa.
Right. I hitters I don't like being in Tampa. Pitchers I do to some degree. I don't love how quick the hook is, but I like that they keep the ratios tight usually. But yeah, I mean Nelson Cruz, it's really as simple as I don't think he's done yet. He looks like he's still got plenty of juice left. And he for round 14, it's a hell of a hitter to get there.
And I mean, if this is the year where he finally does fall off the map,
Yeah,
you're,
it's
you're,
an
you're,
okay. It's an
yeah,
acceptable loss. It's round
yeah,
14. Yeah,
yeah. You've
this
lost
is
pick
exactly what
200.
I preach.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like this is an acceptable loss. It's not like
but
my season is on the line.
he's pretty much put up top 75 numbers every year forever. Like he's
Yeah,
just like, and to potentially get a top 75, top 50 hitter at pick 200, is I'll take that gamble every time. So like because I think even if he falls off, he's still going to give you power. It just may not come with the batting average we're used to.
Right.
So and if it doesn't, if by June you go, oh my God, this guy's washed, you drop him and move on. Like it's just not going to hurt that much. So, yeah, I'm right there with you on him. He's easily my pick as well in this tier, which has some interesting names. I already mentioned Dylan Floro as an interesting guy. I think he will get the job. It's also got Gavin Lux. It's got Patrick Sandoval. It's got Jorge Soler, who needs to find a team, but I really like what I saw out of him.
So wait, what do you think about Gavin Lux?
I'm so torn on Gavin Lux because I want him to be a thing.
I listed someone else as my fade here, but he was the guy who was my first thought to fade because he doesn't even have a job. And when he's played, he's shown some flashes, but he's not like that guy who all he needs is playing time and he's dominant. We don't know that. What am I getting?
Here's the thing.
I have no interest in 210.
I have some interest. One, because I think he's gonna play every day. The Dodgers lineup without Max Muncy, is adding a DH. He played in the outfield pretty much every day. I mean, if Bellinger isn't going to be a necessarily full-time player, the fact that Lux can play outfield, second, and short, I think he becomes the Chris Taylor of this team, and Chris Taylor becomes the everyday second baseman.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. The problem is that they have so many guys there.
They don't anymore though. They lost Seeger. They're losing Muncy.
Well, are we sure that they're not going to be bringing in more guys too?
They could.
I mean,
that could change things some.
I mean, you got Beatty who can play first when Muncy's out. They play McKinstry too. I don't know. I get that there's definitely a path to playing time. I just think at 210, you're paying for it as if it's already there.
I think at this moment, I think it's there. If they bring in someone else, if they are the team that goes and gets Story or Correa, or they go out and they pick up a big outfielder, it's the Dodgers. They could pick up 2 or 3 of those things, right? But they did not seem like they were super active. They weren't in on Baez. They weren't in on, you bring it back Seeger. A team who's got probably the most amount of money, right? The Dodgers are the Yankees of our time, right?
Yeah.
They can buy whatever they want, and they have shown that they're willing to throw the money around. They weren't going out and doing that. So, maybe it was a matter of they wanted to see how the CBA played out first, and maybe they'll be more active once the CBA is in. Because I do think that some of the big money teams that are close to luxury tax as it is, we're afraid that luxury tax number might get moved down. If a floor, a salary cap floor was put into effect. But that being said, the way the roster is constructed as of now, yes, he is a full-time player. And if that is the case, there is a legit second, third round upside in Lux's bat if everything goes right. Now, this is obviously we're talking about ceiling, right? Because we've seen what the floor is. The floor is he's not a major league player,
right?
But I think there is enough there to take the gamble on at this spot. But it's not something I'm going to do every time. It's taking those dart throws.
Yeah, I mean, I see what I know what he. I was a big fan of him. Coming out of the minors, but seeing what he's done in the majors, his barrel rate has never been good. It was 4% last year, high of 6.8%. Max EV is 109, which is fine, but not great. Again, hard hit rate anywhere between 27 and 40%, not very good. I don't see that second, third round upside unless he could easily still have further development coming. He's 24 coming into the year. There's absolutely the case or the argument that you can make that he has a lot of upside still in there. But I don't think he's shown us really any reason to think that that's like he's on the precipice of that. I'm not saying he wouldn't be a pick, 2023, 2024 maybe, but for this year, I currently don't see enough there to warrant a pick, given that I like other guys around there.
Yeah, I mean, you're not saying anything that is like really wrong necessarily. I want to see what he did. I mean, down the stretch he was really, really good, and that was the first time he really got consistent everyday playing time. So, I mean, and it's obviously it's a tiny sample, extremely tiny sample, but last 60 plate appearances, which was the second week of September through the first week of October, where he was playing pretty much every day, he hit 360, 467, 500, home run, 1 stolen base. I mean,
but like that's just like guys get on hot streaks, and
that's what it could be, but it could also be, hey, he finally got the playing time he's needed in order, because I mean, it's really hard for guys to be sent back down, brought back up, only play 2 or 3 times a week when you're up, and this is a guy that maybe he just needed that consistent playing time in order to figure it out. I wonder.
If that barrel rate was I don't know, closer to 10%, and like the max EV was like 112 or something, then maybe. I don't know. I'm just not. I think that there's enough there to keep you interested. Again, if we're talking about an NFBC main event team, you're not taking him there because
probably not. No.
You don't have the space on your bench to do it. Like you're gonna have to account for COVID and everything. Like I want as few risks as possible when it comes to these kind of guys, because he's the kind of guy you're going to hold on to and keep holding and holding and holding, hoping that eventually he shows you something, hoping that he eventually gets that playing time. Like, I just don't think it's worth it in that kind of league. In a DC, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's better in a draft and hold, really, really deep rosters, league where you've got 10 bench spots, something like that, and an IL, so things like that, your home leagues, or DCs. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably not touching him in the main event.
Yeah.
So that's a fair point. So, all right, you're fading in round 14.
Yeah, and so this is right at the top of the round, and it's Adley Rutschman, and I know like huge prospect talent, but it really just comes down. I mean, I'm fading prospects in general, with few exceptions, but especially when you're talking about a guy who I don't think that they're going to start with him up. I mean, if they do, then it's a different story. But
he would need to sign some sort of contract. So
I mean, it's likely that he won't be up until at least May, maybe June. You're not going to be holding him on your bench for that long. Your expectations for a rookie are too high if you're thinking that he's going to be that valuable this year. And he's a catcher. I don't think they're going to play him every day. I think he's going to split time at best, and I just don't see a reason to take him in the top 200.
Yeah, I think the only place I'd do it is in a DC. Where I'm going to be rostering 3 other catchers at the beginning of the season, and I can afford to wait until. But I just hate the idea in or in a Yahoo league where you have that NA spot. Like that's a place I would do it as well. So if you're playing in a league where you have some sort of minor league spot where you could stash a guy, I would.
I don't know what Yahoo league that is, but the prize leagues definitely don't allow you to do that.
Okay, I know that a lot of like the home Yahoo leagues.
Okay,
they've got this what's called an NA slot. So anybody who's on the NA list, which is someone who's suspended or someone who's a minor leaguer, you can put them into that slot, and it's separate from the IL.
Here's the thing, though. I had the same thing with Witt last year. I took Witt in a DC last year, never even came up. So. I mean, we all think that he's going to come up, and I get that, but everybody thought Witt was going to come up last year too. They were even talking. Well, some people were saying, even Royals beat writers were saying it's possible Witt starts on the roster because the Royals are committed to winning. That's what they said. So I'm just saying everyone's taking it as fact that Rutschman's going to be playing this year. Will he? Probably at some point, but who knows when? And there's still the possibility that he doesn't.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, I think I would much rather take the shot on Rutschman in the 14th round than take the shot on Witt, who's going like pick 90 right now or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I almost picked him as my fade too. I just kind of stayed away from prospects because it's kind of like the obvious injury guys. I just don't think it's even worth discussing too much.
There's a number of guys I could fade in this area. I mean, I'm fading Mike Clevenger.
Hard.
You know, I'm fading Joe Barlow. Actually, so not too many because I actually like a few. But a guy that I'm starting to fade who I used to really like, and a number of people in the industry, including some guys I'm really good friends with and have worked with. The guy I'm fading is Jose Urquidy. I understand why people they watch him pitch and they go, "Oh, there's more strikeout upside." Ooh, this is a guy that could turn into an ace. And I understand that, but at some point he has to produce and stay healthy, and he has yet to do that. I mean, we're talking about a guy who just does not strike guys out, pitches way too much to contact. It's not the best of parks to be pitching in. It's a division that is going to be getting more and more competitive, even though the A's look like they're going to get worse. The Rangers are getting better. The Angels are getting better. The Mariners look like they could be a legit force in the American League. I think at some point Urquidy's going to have to prove it before I'm going to be willing to pay the price on it. I know the price isn't extraordinarily bad or anything, but there's just too many other good pitchers around for me to be going back to the well on Urquidy.
I'm really at a loss with him right now. I need to do more of a deep dive on him. I will say that watching him is an uncomfortable watch. It just doesn't. He doesn't look like a pitcher. He looks like a position player who's trying to pitch, and he's super short. I don't know it. I really don't know completely what I think.
He's super short. He's 6 feet tall. Fuck you. Super short. Go to hell.
He looks. Well, they goose these things. He's probably actually 5'9". No, I don't know, but I'm 6'5", so he looks short to me. But I don't know. He just doesn't look like a pitcher to me. I know that's not very analytical or anything, but I don't have anything more for you right now other than right now he's neither a target nor a fade, and he could go either way for me. I love that he pitches for Houston. I like that he limits walks. But there's obviously more to it than that. I mean, he obviously gives up home runs pretty consistently too, which is a bit of an issue. He doesn't, he doesn't throw especially hard. I don't know. There's definitely some red flags there. The strikeout rate's not great, so I don't know.
No, I mean, you've got a guy that gives up league average zone contact. It is in the zone 50% of the time. Struggles with command within the zone. Doesn't strike people out. I understand there are intriguing parts of his profile, but until he figures out how to stay out of the zone and get people to chase out of the zone, I'm not that interested.
He's a whip asset though. But I mean that's all I think I can definitely count on there.
He is, but will he be as big of a whip asset this year if his defense
hard?
Well, and if the defense takes a dip without Correa. Now, I think Correa ends up back in Houston.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seems like the most logical spot. I mean, they were willing to spend the money on Verlander. Why wouldn't they be willing to spend the money on their own guy? He's kind of the face of that franchise. That being said, without Correa, that is a dip in the defense right there. So,
yeah.
And I don't even know who they would have. I don't know if they'd move Bregman back to shortstop or what they would do there. But I mean, it would hurt the defense, which would hurt him. So, I'm just fading. All right, let's finish up the last round. Who's your buy guy?
All right, so I'm not gonna lie. There are probably two guys I have above this guy, but there's a couple. I don't want to give away. I'm on a lot of pods. I give a lot away. There's a couple guys I don't want to give away, and they're in this range. So the guy that I'm gonna go with here is Jonathan Scope. And I think he's just a guy who perennially gets undervalued. He's got, that 20 to 25 homer power. And I mean, he's hit up to 32, but that was in Baltimore. Now he's in Detroit. So I don't think you're going to really be seeing more than 25 would be the max. But he's a guy who gives you a good, he gives you an above average. I mean, he's like a 260 to 280 hitter. He had a 117 max EV last year. He doesn't have a great barrel rate, 6.8%, and it's never really been above 8.8 was his highest. Hard hit rate, 40%, not great. But he makes good contacts. He's got an 87% zone contact rate, 77% contact rate. Doesn't strike out excessively. It's under 20% last year. I just think he's solid. And the thing that I also really like is he's first and second base eligible, which means corner and middle infield. Mm-hmm. So it's really, I love those guys who can give me that flexibility where later on I can choose whatever the best guy available is, whether it be middle infield or corner infield, because I've got this guy who can play either.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually really like this entire round. There's a couple.
There's a lot of good players in this round. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we start this round with Anthony Descalfani, who I love. Mitch Garver, I think, is a really interesting catcher where he's going. Alex Wood, just a little bit of a preview for episode 1000 of the Sleeper and the Bust. Alex Wood was like my player that could be this year's Robbie Ray. So, and wow. I mean, yeah. Now they had different bugaboos coming into, their season in which, Ray broke out last year. You know what I'm saying? That Wood could return that kind of value return this year. But all the pieces are there for Alex Wood. It's just the health. Can he stay healthy for a full season? Did last year. Can he do it again?
So wait, is he your pick here or no?
There's all sorts of guys, but my pick is my boy, O'Neal Cruz, who I absolutely love. I think, what we saw from him in the short sample, but also what we've seen from him in the minor leagues is just a guy who can murder a baseball.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about playing in PNC. I think that Pittsburgh lineup is actually going to be a lot better than people are going to give it credit for. O'Neal Cruz is a guy I'm trying to get just about every draft is my MI.
Are we just assuming he's going to be there from the beginning, or are you just going to hold on to him for 2 months while they keep him down?
I don't think they're keeping him down. I mean, they let him play last year. So, I mean, no reason to think that they're not going to give him a shot this year. I hope they're not going to play service. They could. It's the Pirates. They could play service time games. But it.
Oh, for sure they could.
I mean, they didn't do it with Hayes. I'm assuming that they're not going to do it. And from everything I've seen, it sounds like he's a pretty good bat to be up day one.
118 max EV, like that's
insanity,
monster power,
like
monster power.
And I mean, he is
and he runs.
Yeah, he's huge. He's a massive
6'7".
dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's actually taller than me. So
yeah. I don't know if he can stay at shortstop his entire career at that size.
I don't think
so. He is a monster of a man, and he can hit. And for a guy who is a monster, he doesn't have the holes in his swing in the same way that we've seen a lot of other really large guys develop into, and he's been able to stay healthy too. So, I'm trying to get a lot of plus 200 pick shares of O'Neal Cruz. Really, really love him.
I'm a little concerned about the K rate. I mean, it was not terrible in the minors. It was like 23 to 26%, and then obviously he was only up for 9 plate appearances last year, so I'm not going to worry about the 44% K rate there. But I do expect him to struggle a bit with strikeouts. But the other skills are so good that I think it's just the playing time for me, and that's really what it comes down to. So my question for you, with I assume our First Pitch Arizona League starting back up at some point, they said in January, right?
Yeah, unfortunate. I've got the first pick. I thought
you got the first pick. Are you going to use it on O'Neal Cruz, who's available?
I really, really want to, but
because he ain't making back to you.
Absolutely not. I have bigger needs, unfortunately.
All right.
And so right now I have a closer queued up because I need a second closer.
That's fair. I always figured that whoever the 15th pick, the first pick coming out of the break would be a closer because someone's going to know something by then.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to decide between Knebel and Trevino right now because those are two guys who are still on the board. Round 24 is what we're starting around.
Yep.
So, so I mean, at the price, it's a good buy. I wish I could take. There's some really really good players still on the board. So. I wish I had 2 or 3 picks right now in a row, but because my heart tells me to take O'Neal Cruz, and I may end up doing that.
You might just say fuck closers and take O'Neal Cruz.
The problem is I don't even know when this restarts. I thought it was going to restart like once we started the once the new year came around, but clearly that's not the case.
You think they're waiting on the labor agreement? I don't know.
No, they'd given us a date. I just can't remember what it was. Maybe it's next Monday.
Who gave us the date? I didn't get a date.
We got an email from Derek.
Oh, damn it!
But I can't remember when it is. So I'll have to message Derek and ask him.
Was it from Derek or from NFBC?
I think it was from Derek, but it might have been NFBC. Right now, Josh Rojas is my middle infielder, but I also have Adam Frazier already on this team, Willie Adames, Luis Urias. So, I don't really need a shortstop right now. What I need is pitching.
Okay.
So the question is, am I willing to just go, fuck what I need right now? I want O'Neal Cruz on this team.
Be a disciplined drafter. Be a disciplined drafter, Justin.
It's a free league that I don't really care about. That I honestly regret doing. Because now that I have a league limit, I wish I didn't draft that one. So
yeah, shit, does that even count?
Yeah. Let's we've got about 10 minutes before I've got to be in another meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's finish out. Who's your fade? We're gonna argue a little bit here too.
Okay. It's Nicky Lopez, and it's I'll say this, I get the appeal. I do think he has legitimate contact skills. I don't know that he's gonna hit close to 300 again. I think he might be more of a 275 kind of guy. The problem is that the steals upside there isn't huge. I think he can steal 20 again, maybe. Projections have him for 14. But there's just zero power there. His barrel rate was 0.7%. He ain't hitting home runs. He does have legit contact skills though. So I don't think he's not like Billy Hamilton, right? He's not like a guy who can't hit the ball. But I also have a little concern over what they end up doing. If he struggles, do they just play, Mondesi and Witt in the infield, or, Whit Merrifield or Bobby Witt? There's a number of ways that they can do this without Lopez. They can move, Mondesi to third or Hunter Dozier to third. I don't know. He's not the kind of guy I want to be taking here. I want to get my steals early so I don't have to play guys like this to get the empty power. I mean, the dude had 43 RBI last year.
Yeah, and I mean, I get where you're coming from. That being said, I think that he makes sense if for some reason you miss out. He represents one of the last options.
Yeah.
Of a guy who I think should be able to get 20 stolen bases without crushing your batting average. There are concerns though. Like you said, no power. So he's pretty much a 3-category player: runs, batting average, and stolen bases. And as players like Bobby Witt Jr. come up, maybe playing time crunches, and I think we all think that Mondesi probably isn't a full-time player. Either they're going to limit him or he'll end up getting hurt again. But there's a chance he is. If he's just good, and if he's like Mondesi that some truthers believe he can be, are they really going to keep him off the field? So I understand the concerns, but I also I ended up taking Lopez in that draft I talked about, which is poorly constructed. I don't want to be in. I also took Miles Straw in that league. I don't want to be in that position.
Right, and that's the thing. I don't think you can win consistently with guys like Lopez and Miles Straw both in your lineup. That's you're taking such a huge average hit there, or a home power hit. Nicky gonna
Zach,
steal more bags than
Zach,
Mondesi.
yeah, Zach R on YouTube watching live right now says Nicky going to steal more bags than Mondesi. That could happen if Mondesi isn't
It
healthy.
could. I mean, because Mondesi could miss 3/4 of the season, but Mondesi can also steal like 10 bases in a week. So I don't know. I'm going to take Mondesi there as much as I'm out on Mondesi, as you know.
I like the boldness of the call. I absolutely do.
All right. Well, so
But
who's your fade here?
At the same point, last season was the first season since Mondesi's become even a part-time player that he didn't steal more than 22 bases. So
right.
Let's see.
He goes on binges, man.
My fade is I'm getting a little bit of feedback from you, so I'm gonna mute you for a second. Let's see. My fade. There's a number of them in this area. Ken Giles is the guy. He's already starting to drop in drafts, so I think his ADP is going to drop out of this area. There's too many options to close in Seattle. Guys like, I've talked about Bobby Dahlbeck not being a huge fan of him. I know there's like a lot of really smart people in the industry, including our buddy MLB Moving Average, John Lucchesa. Matt Williams is a believer in the changes Dahlbeck made. Such a small sample. Like, I'm just not willing to buy back in on something we've seen before, where a guy makes change, or Dahlbeck makes a change, and then reverts back to being a 5% strikeout guy.
You're in the wrong range, buddy. You're later.
Am I later?
Yeah, this is 210 to 225.
210 to 235. My bad.
225.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Sorry. I apologize. So not a lot of fades then for me in this area. The only one I can really see that I'm hugely fading is Lucas Sims. And he was a guy I wrote up for my relief pitcher piece that went up, I think, yesterday on Fangraphs. Or actually, it went up this morning, earlier today on Fangraphs. Why do we think Lucas Sims is the closer? Like, why is he being drafted like a closer? I don't get it. His last save was in June. I think it was June 15th. Like, there's no reason to think he's the closer in Cincinnati. If he is going to close games, it's probably a timeshare. But I think all too often people go and look at roster resource and go, I'm going to believe exactly what roster resource has given me. And Jason Martinez does an amazing job with roster resource. I absolutely rely upon them for a lot of stuff, but
much more accurate in season than in the off season. Like, I always warn people, they're just taking guesses,
they're guessing like we are,
and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's their lineup tracker in season is the best singular best tool there's out there. But in the off season, you need to do your own research. You cannot just look and say, well, roster resource has him as the closer, so he's the closer, because that's how you end up losing.
Yeah. And like, what did you say earlier about the importance or what the important thing is with closers?
Job security and role.
Yeah. It's not skills, it's role.
Correct.
And he did not save a game after, like I said, June 15th or 16th.
Which really shocked me, but I think it's because Givens was their guy that they closed with, and then he left. So people are just assuming that it's going to go to Sims. But like you said, it's just an assumption, and I think it's just an upside play. Like, it's round 15, and he's got great skills, but and it's the job is open. But who knows? They could still add someone. It's the same thing. It's the same concern, right? I mean, it's the same reason you don't take Knable or Duvall or any of those guys either. So
I'd much rather get a guy that, I keep mentioning Lou Trevino. Like, he saved 24 games last year, and now the guy he was sharing with it at points is gone in Andrew Chafin. So, like, Trevino seems like he will be the guy entering the season. So,
I'll take Ian Kennedy, who's going at 325, 100 picks later, because I think that he's that kind of guy that managers see as a closer. So
yeah, he could end up back in Philadelphia. It could end up in Oakland. He could end up, in a
yep,
number of different
yep,
places as a cheap closing option.
yep.
That gives them the established guy. Yeah.
Quote.
All right.
Unquote.
I think what we'll probably do next week, unless we come up with a better topic, is just continue this theme and maybe do the next 10 rounds, because that'll give people some real deep players to focus on. But Dave, remind everybody where you can reach on social media, and then plug what you got going on.
Yeah, that's Run D McD. And I was gonna say I also recently got tweeted again from someone who was trying to get Run DMC the band, and they accidentally tweeted me. So
Nice.
that happens every once in a while. So I retweeted it with add that D. Or I guess it would be subtract that D for them. But anyways, if you're trying to reach me, so really right now my focus is writing, but also working on the Earth League. So trying to accommodate. I'm writing the charter right now. I'm in the middle of that, and I'm also trying to get all these new leagues going while also making sure that Glarf is on track. We've got 3 guys who are unfortunately leaving us for other places. DVR is moving to the West Coast. And then I think Derek Rhodes is probably going to join up with the St. Louis area league because it's crazy. There's a lot of people in St. Louis in this industry. And then it also looks like Zach's going to be joining up with the Canadians. So, we're losing 3 guys. We also have a bunch of guys who want to get in. So, trying to get everybody an opportunity and just really focused on growing the Earth League and Glarf. And I'm really excited for what it can be, especially with like the whole charity aspect and all that, and really making it into a competitive, fun league.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun. We might actually need to make a second Bay Area league.
Okay.
Because we have so many people in the Bay Area, and I've actually got a waiting list of like 5 or 6 people. But we'll see. Because I don't know that anybody. I've been trying to get Steve Paulo in for years, but haven't been able to. DVR's just moved.
Right.
Richard Sands lives out here. He's mentioned. He's actually watching right now. He just threw us a big yo in the chat.
Yeah. I love Richard. He's always listening. I feel like I can't tweet or be anywhere without him hearing, which is awesome. And there's Woody.
Woody's watching it. He wants us to continue with this theme, so we will probably listen to Woody. You can follow me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. You can follow Friends of Fantasy Benefits on Twitter at Fantasy Benefits. Email me or the show, friendsoffantasybenefits@gmail.com. You can hear me on this podcast, Sleeper on the Buzz podcast, and I'm going to be starting up the TGFBI podcast again here soon. I'm writing pretty close to daily over on Fangraphs, and as well as doing content on TGFBI.com and on friendsoffantasybenefits.com. If you want to get into TGFBI, now's the time. Signups go through the end of the month. Make sure you sign up. Right now, we have like almost 400 signups. Which is amazing, but there's still about 200 people who played last year who haven't even signed up. So, obviously some people aren't playing again. And that's totally,
you heard Zach said fuck TGFBI right on his pod.
I did not. I don't listen to Zach's podcast. Mostly because
MTM was on.
Yeah, MTM's on. I'm not listening to that shit. I did not hear him say that.
It wasn't that strong, but he said he's not coming back. So
that's totally fine. I don't mind if people don't want to come back. I think at this point, it's a beast of its own. Everybody doesn't need to play, and that's totally cool. But if you want in, or if you want to try to win your way in, make sure you sign up for a satellite league. If you're not in the industry already, you can win your way in. And those will get going. I'll start organizing some of those leagues.
Are Woody and Richard in?
Richard is definitely going to be in. I can't remember if Woody does any content, but Richard wrote an article over on Chris at Baseball Pod's website about winning the over on the Palazzo tourney that they did. So
that was awesome.
Definitely go check that out if you have not read that. So he's definitely going to be in. So
Woody, win your way in, buddy. Do a qualifier.
Or I don't know if Woody may have won his way in already.
Okay.
But if he hasn't, if you want to be in and you're not already doing content, it's really easy. produce some sort of content. Like it's. Well, I mean, you could try to win your way in, but then you got to fight with 14 other people.
Justin's wife was in last year, so it doesn't take a lot.
It really doesn't take a lot. Like up. Woody says he's done some content. I commented on here. That does not count as content. Having a Twitter account where you talk about fantasy sports does not count as content. All you got to do, pay $5 for a WordPress, write one article, and you're fucking in. Like, people. It's really not that difficult. So if you want to get in, make sure to do that. TGFBI.com has both the signups for TGFBI and for the satellite leagues. And hopefully we'll raise a lot of money for charity again through that this year. I think we raised like close to $4,000 or $5,000 last year. So it's pretty awesome. All right, that's going to wrap us up. For Dave and myself, thanks for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
And outro.